Okay, welcome back again to another Zoom session that we're having today. Today is Sunday, December 29th. Kind of little chilly, not too bad, a little rainy outside. I'm here on Staten Island with my good brother, June 8. As always, he's the one who's holding me down with these recordings, so Allah reward him immensely and his family. Uh, So we want to have a nice discussion today. As you understood, I have some things I called it house cleaning to do. So we want to do that, and then hopefully we'll do it in a proper way. Uh, we want to thank everybody who comes on with us. I see a few names there. I think Zafalah's there, Sister Fatima, Brother Talib. I think Alan is there. I'm not too good at wanting to shout out names. What I want Allah to do is reward you. I want Him to reward you in this life and the next life if you came to this location with a sincere aim at learning something, getting some information, and then taking that information and going and check it. I don't want you to just take nothing I say on face value. Go and check it out and see what it is, and if it agrees with your intellect and your mind and your reasoning, well, then you incorporate it in your life. If it doesn't, then you put it aside, and maybe later on it might come to you or whatever. But I don't want anyone to think that because I'm saying something, it's the end of all be all. No, it's not like that at all. So I thank everybody for coming. I thank Allah for allowing me to get here this morning. I had a little accident at the gas station and I clipped my finger a little bit, and that caused me a problem. But alhamdulillah, there was somebody there to help me get it straightened out. So now today, I'm going to get into some controversial kind of stuff. When I say controversial, they're really controversial. Is that I think that some shots have been fired my way. I'm using street talk now. Uh, sometimes when you those of us who have children, and we used to buy them little coloring books and so forth and teach them how to color, and they would scribble all over the place and scribble, turn the page and scribble, and we say, oh, pretty picture, how nice it is. And then eventually, as they got older and they got a little more skilled at what they were doing, they would stay within the lines and they would make the line and then color in the lines. So I think what has happened now, a couple of people on the internet who call themselves Quran alone followers have like thrown something at someone, and some of it got on me. It got on me, and I'm saying, well, wow, why'd you sling the thing around like that and not aim at the person you were at? And then you got stuff all over me. Now I'm saying, who's gonna clean my uniform? I can't go to the thing now, the party or whatever. Look what you did. You caused the problem. So at least pay for the cleaning and so forth. So now I'm suggesting that I have been singled out, not singled out, but incorporated as being a hypocrite, as being a mushrik, and apparently destined for hell if I don't straighten out my situation. So now I wanna clear that up. I don't really take too kind to that. I don't think the people that I'm gonna be identifying, and I'm gonna identify them, I'm not after them personally. I don't think they have any personal beef with me, and I don't have any personal beef with them. I'm about fact finding. I'm about the truth. That's all. The truth that matters. I don't care where it comes from, and I want anybody to look at anything I do and say, and actually, you can call me out by name. You don't have to insinuate anything or, make remarks that might identify me but not calling me by name. If you have a problem with anything, anybody who hears what I'm saying, call me out by name. Hamza Abdul Malik said so and so and so, and I believe he's wrong. and this is what he said. This is the argument he gave, and this is why I say that he's wrong, and this is what I say, and this is the argument I give. And then we could kind of sort it out, and if we don't, well, then you and you have your understanding, I have mine, we stand before law. And he says on the day of Qiyamah, he will make it clear to us that wherein we differ. There's no problem. Or if you feel that we need to discuss it somewhere on some format, we can discuss it. I'm not too keen on discussing. If you call me to talk about something, it's going to be a debate. I'm going to debate you on the issue. You bring your argument, I bring mine. We set up a formal way of debating with respect. You have time, I have time. We cross-examine each other, closing arguments, or the whole thing. That's what I'm doing. I don't want to sit and just talk and chit-chat because that can go all over the place. I debate. I'm a debater. I'm a da'i. So now, without any further ado, let me kick this off. I have a couple of pictures I want to put up to show you why I'm doing what I'm doing. Can you put up that first picture there, brother? Uh, 1 second, please. I, I think it says, yeah, this one right here. This picture here, it says, let's expose the hypocrites among us concerning Salah. Let's expose what? The hypocrites among us. So this person is talking about among the so-called Quran alone followers. He's not talking about the Sunnis. He's very well at taking care of them. But now he's looking at some of the so-called people who follow the Quran. Now everybody knows that him and one of our brothers, they had a back and forward thing going on, and it kind of got a little out of pocket. But I guess they resolved it somehow or another, and they kind of calmed down, and everybody's at what they're doing now. But I think the idea was that he was thinking that maybe that brother has followings, has followers. I'm not a follower of Brother X. I'm not a follower of anybody. I don't follow anyone. I'm Hamza Abdul Malik alone. I've been that way all the time. And I don't follow anybody. I follow only the Quran, only Allah and His Messenger. That's who I follow. No one else. And I don't lead anybody. And when we had our Quran study group, and I said when I was a part of it, hopefully it'll still continue. But I wasn't the leader of that. I was just in it. We was just students studying the Quran. Now what I'm doing is just doing something. I announced it to you last Zoom. I'm doing something, just my personal approach to my understanding of Quran and certain topics. And therefore, I don't have to have anybody involved to say, well, he don't speak for me. I didn't say that. I'm not with him or whatever. Not that they would be saying that, but no, I'm not doing that. So therefore, I'm just speaking on my own behalf. But here what it says is, let's examine the hypocrites among us. Let's examine the hypocrites among us. Now, if I'm a hypocrite because of I don't believe that there's a ritual salah, which I don't believe that there's any rituals in the Quran at all. I don't do none of the so-called five pillars of Islam, none of them, nothing. I've announced that over and over again, and I can stand behind it and back up what I'm saying, why I don't do it. If another person wants to do it, that's their business, not me. I'm going to stand before Allah with what I got. And then he'll examine me and whatever it is, and I hope that I'm good. So now, if I'm a hypocrite, that means I'm in the lowest part of the fire. I'm not just in hell, I'm in the lowest part. So for someone to identify me indirectly by saying, let's expose the hypocrites among us, and I'm one of them, then no, I don't know if that's too nice. It's not like Brother Mufti over there. Nah, it's not nice. It's not nice at all. You got another picture there? Let's see if we got another picture here to put up. One second. I haven't advanced to some of this modern eyes technology that I see everybody's getting into. But I'm kind of slow with old school stuff. Here it is again. The enemy from within. It goes on to say the no ritual Salah people. Who are the enemies from within? Not enemy, enemies. It's plural. You see now there's a picture, apparently some cartoon thing of Brother X there. And we know that how, like I said again, how that went down. But now he's saying the enemy, this is Baba Shuaib, he's saying the enemies from within. Enemies, not one person. The no ritual Salah people. So I'm a no ritual Salah person, been that way for quite a while now. And I'm an enemy from within. Now, that's like what President Trump was just talking recently during the campaign about the enemy within. You know, the so-called the politicians that oppose him and all of that. That's the enemy within. I don't know if he was inspired by that mindset or this is just something he said, but certainly the enemy within, the no ritual salah, that's not nice. That's not nice at all. So let's be done with that. I'm going to address the issue now. You got that picture of me doing salah? It just so happened I was at one of my classes when I used to teach comparative religion. That was like 30 years ago, and it came time for break for Salah, and somebody just happened to, I guess they wanted to take a picture of the brother who was giving the comparative religion classes. That's me there with the white fez on, making Salah. I wasn't profiling for anybody. As a matter of fact, I think that's Zafallah Khan right to my right. Zafallah Khan, that's you there, brother, when you had that nice black beard and young and coming down to the class. And so somebody took that picture. The point is that I know what Salah is. I know what a ritual prayer is and ritual Salah. I did it for years. I went to Hajj and I ran around the Kaaba and did all that kind of business and kissed the black stone. I know what all that is. It's not new to me. So when I'm not doing it, it's not because I don't want to do it. As a matter of fact, back in the day, we did it in such dangerous conditions that in Brooklyn, New York, it was kind of hard to get out on the street in the subway and anywhere and just make Salah. But we did it. We made that sacrifice and we did it. You can take that down. So now, so now, uh, Salah is no, I'm not a stranger to that. Now, do you have that clip where the brother spoke about the no rituals, no ritual, no confirmation for rituals in the Quran? Let's look at this clip before I get off and running, before I get all wound up here. Let's look at this clip. And Shuaib is familiar with this clip. He's put it up on his post. I didn't get it from his post. I had that clip also when it first came out. I saw the clip. And so I have it here. So let's listen to what he says again. Hmm. One second. Be patient. And if anyone has to leave at any time, feel free to leave. Don't, leave because whatever we do today, inshallah, will be up on YouTube and you can come back and look at it later if you just happen to go. And again, I appreciate everybody who's coming on and who will come on, and Allah reward you in this life and the next life if your intentions are pure. If they're not pure, then He's not going to reward you. Simple as that. So let's take a look. I'm using this for educational purposes.
When we look to the life of the Prophet ﷺ and to his sayings, because many people, many youngsters especially, and are being misled, they are being confused. And astaghfirullah, by people, who say simply, brother, we have to pray the way the Prophet ﷺ prayed. The Prophet said this is in Bukhari, this is what the Imam says, so who are you going to pray like? Like Imam Abu Hanifa, or the way the Prophet prayed? But again, just as in the Quran there is no complete description of the prayer, similarly, there isn't a single hadith anywhere, Sahih hadith anywhere, which mentions the prayer from the beginning till the end. If there is any hadith, I would definitely like to know. If there is anybody finds a single hadith which describes the prayer from the beginning till the end in its complete cycle, I want to know. And in fact, you can't even go beyond takbir, let alone other issues. Holding the hands, ye to baad ki baat hai. This is afterwards. Ruku, whether you raise your hands before ruku, after ruku, this is long after. Where you hold your hands is long after. What you do, whether you recite Fatiha behind the Imam or not, is long after. You can't even go beyond takbir. And I will show you how. It does mention in hadith, hadith is, there are various narrations when the Prophet ﷺ would begin his salah, he would raise his hands up to your shoulders. In some hadiths, up to his ears. In other hadiths, we accept both. Some people would say, no, this is more authentic to the shoulders, so this is what you have to do. The other one is less authentic, so we will leave that. But the Prophet didn't say that. The Prophet prayed like that as well. But even if a person wants to raise his hands up to your shoulders, but this is not all that you do when you raise your hands. There are issues regarding takbir. If, for example, and I will show you, raising of the hands, yes, you're going to raise your hands, but before you can raise your hands, you need to do something else. You need to stand. Are you going to raise your hands? You're going to join Salat here, and you're coming through the door. Are you going to raise your hands over there and just, Allahu Akbar, and start walking in your Salat as well? What do? You go to where you want to pray first, and before you can even raise your hands, you need to stand in the place where you're going to pray. Now it makes mention where you should, where you raise your hands up to, the ears or the shoulders. Okay, we accept both. And in Bukhari it makes mention of shoulders, yes, of shoulders. Okay, we accept that. In other books of hadith makes mention up to the ears. But when you stand to raise your hands, how are you going to stand? I will stand here. Now you can either stand like this, with your feet pointing to the Qibla and with minimum gap. What did the Prophet say about how much gap should be in between your feet? If you're going to stand like that, as many brothers do, where is the hadith to say you stand like that? If you're going to stand like this, which most Ahnaf do, Sahih hadith, because we've got no problem in such undefined, controversial issues, ambiguous issues, we follow mujtahid scholar. Hanafis will follow Imam Abu Hanifa, Shafis will follow Imam Shafi, Hanbali will follow Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, Malikis will follow Imam Malik, and so on. But he who wants to pray strictly by Sahih hadith, I would like to know where is the Sahih hadith regarding how far you should place your feet. That's the first point. Second point about takbir, you're going to raise your hands. It only makes mention the Prophet raised his hands up to the shoulders or up to the ears. But you can raise your hands in a number of different ways. You can raise your hands like this. Or I just saw somebody raise his hands like this. If this is wrong, where is the hadith to say it's wrong? And if this is right, where is the hadith to say you raise your hands and you keep your fingers together facing the Qibla? Sahih hadith. And then when you come to takbir, you haven't started yet. This is even before you say takbir. And when you're going to say takbir, there are different ways. You can either say Allahu Akbar or Allahu Akbar. Samjhe? You can either say takbir and then bring your hands down, or you can bring your hands down and then say takbir. Yeah? Or you can say Allahu Akbar. You bring your hands down while saying takbir. But I would like to know, where is the Sahih hadith to say do it like this? There isn't one. So if we want to go strictly by Sahih Hadith, we can't even go beyond takbir, let alone, where you place your hands.
Okay. So there you have it. I'm not going to critique this particular video here. I just wanted to put it in as an exhibit and as evidence that here's a brother who I agree with the position he's holding, is that there's nothing in the Quran or in any authentic hadith. There's nothing called authentic hadith in the first place. You have no genuine original hadith nowhere. So it was just terms. And there's nothing to tell you how to do it. So whatever you do as a ritual, you're making it up yourself. You're making it up yourself. And so I'm suggesting that what my brother Shuaib does, and we're going to show his tutorial, a few minutes of it, is that he has made up a ritual dua. He doesn't have a ritual salah. He has a ritual dua. He's taken a dua and made a ritual out of it. That, not, like I said again, nothing with him personally. It's just about what he's doing. And so now let's take a look at what are we going to look at here. Let me see what do I have. I want to look at here first before I get started. Oh yeah, we'll look at the Shuaib's tutorial, just a few minutes of it. He put up a tutorial a couple of years ago, and of course I try to grab everything I can grab. I listen to everybody. I listen to everybody's material. I don't care who it is. And some people, I hear them and I see they have flaws that I say, well, I could correct you rather. But I don't. I just let them go. I say there's nothing to bicker about. We're all trying to follow the Quran. Let the person have a little peace and quiet. Let him live, in other words. And but I keep a note of those discrepancies, and I even discuss them with some people in our sessions. But let's take a look at his tutorial, and then we'll get rolling.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, my name is Shuaib Abdullahi, but most people call me Babs Bush. This is the Salat guide. This is the video for the Salat guide concerning the As-Salat according to the Quran. And I'm going to show you the proofs concerning how the Salat is done according to the Quran. So whoever has watched my lectures previously concerning the Salat of the Quran, which you can find on YouTube or Facebook, you find me by the name Bush2G9. You see all the procedures and the evidences concerning what the Quran commands you. So as it goes, I will show you the postures of the Salat. We have the standing posture, we have the bowing down posture, and then we have the prostration posture. 3 postures of the Salat. Then I'll show you what needs to be done according to the Quran. So first of all, when you are about to start your prayer, when you are standing in the standing position, which I'll give you the evidence concerning that, I have to read some few verses for you according to chapter 29 verse 45. It says, recite what has been inspired to you of the book and establish the prayer. Recite what has been inspired to you of the book and establish the prayer. And this was addressed to Muhammad alayhi salam. You can see it's a second person pronoun, that is alayka, ilayka, right? So he says, atlu ma uhiya ilayka min al-kitab wa aqimus salat, right? Atlu ma uhiya ilayka min al-kitab wa aqimus salat. So for instance, when you go to chapter 33 verse 21 of the Quran, Surah Al-Ahzab, where he says, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. So this is the example. God has given you an example in the messenger, a clear example. That is a good pattern and a good example in the messenger of God. So the messenger of God, whatever commands he has been commanded in the Quran, that is what me and you have to follow. So according to chapter 29 verse 45, it says, recite what has been inspired to you, Muhammad, of the book and establish the prayer. So whatever you have to do in the prayer, you must recite from the book of God, that is the Al-Quran. So when you go to chapter 17 verse 110, It says, and وَلَا تَجَهَرْ بِصَلَاتِكَ وَلَا تُخَافِتْ بِهَا وَابْتَغِي بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ سَبِيلًا. You can see he's still talking to Muhammad alayhi salam. He says, and do not be loud with your prayer, you Muhammad, do not be loud with your prayer, nor be silent with it, but seek a way in between. So it means Muhammad alayhi salam, whatever he did in his salat, he recited it from the Quran, and then he was neither loud nor silent. So he was in between, just a moderate tone. So according to chapter 72 verse 18, it says, وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. It says, and that the mosques are for God. The mosques, that is a place of worship, a place of prostration, are for God. So do not invoke anyone with God, with Allah. You are not supposed to invoke anyone along with God. That is the first rule here. So when you go to the mosque you are going to pray has to be dedicated to God, nobody else. So according to chapter 20, Surah Al-Taha, verse 11 to verse 12, you have to be barefooted when you are standing in front of God. When you go to the mosque, you have to be barefooted because the mosque belongs to God. So according to chapter 24, verse 36, it says, فِي بُيُوتٍ أَذْنَ اللَّهَ أَن تُرْفَعَ وَيُذْكَرَ فِيهَا اسْمُهُ يُسَبِّحُ لَهُ فِيهَا بِالْغُدُوِّ وَالْآصَالِ. Right? In the houses God has permitted to be raised in order to mention his name therein and glorify him in the, both in the morning and evening. And glorify his name both in the morning and evening. So that is the house we are supposed to call God. That is the mosque. So God, according to God, he commanded Moses. When Moses came to meet him, he told him to take off his sandals. So by you taking the examples, just like God just tells you in chapter 6 verse 19, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ أَدَاءَ اللَّهُ فَبِهُدَاهُمْ اقْتَدِي. So when you are following the footsteps of the messengers and the prophet, you have to do just as they are commanded. So you go to the mosque, you have to take off your sandals. Now, so when you go to chapter 7 verse 29, God is saying, tells the messenger to say, my Lord commands to justice and to erect your faces at every mosque and invoke him, being sincere to him in religion. So when you are about to start your prayer, whilst you are standing in the mosque, you have to erect your face looking straight, right? And invoke him, to invoke God, because the salat you are going to do has to do with invocation. You are going to call on God. That's why it says, وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. So now to start with the procedure, it starts with the standing position. In the standing position, the reason why it is in the standing position, God says, حَافِظُوا عَلَى صَلَوَاتِ وَصَلَاةِ الْوُسْطَى وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ, according to chapter 2 verse 238, Surah Al-Baqarah. Right? So all the prayers we are going to do, the salawat, God has given you. He gave us 3 prayers in the Quran. 2 are farad and the 1 is nafila in the night. Now, so the Salatul Wusta, Salat al-Isha and Salat al-Fajr, these are the 3 prayers only God has given you in the Quran. So now, in the standing position where it says, وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ, you have to stand obediently in front of God. Whether you are standing with the hand crossed, whether you are standing with the hand backwards, whether you are standing straight, it has to be obediently. It doesn't matter the way you want to stand, as so far as you are standing obediently before God. So according to chapter 3 verse 39, Zechariah did the same. He was standing in prayer. And according to chapter 3 verse 113, Surah Al-Imran, verse 113, right? Among the people of the book, there are those who stand in the night reciting the verses of God and they prostrate, right? So now it says, Hafizu ala salawatu wa salatul wusta wa akumu lillahi qanitin. So we start with the first posture, that's the standing position. Then it says what? So whenever you read the Quran, then seek protection with God against the devil. Now your salat you are going to do is full of recitation of the Quran and reading of the Quran. Whatever you are going to do has to come from the Quran. So according to God, chapter 16 verse 98, whenever you are going to read the Quran, you have to seek refuge with God against the accursed devil. So by this I say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I seek refuge with God against the rejected, the devil, the rejected, the accursed devil, right? So now I'm starting. So by saying A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, after that, you go to chapter 6, verse 162 to 163. Let's use the messenger as an example. God told him to say, Kul, inna salati wa nusuki wa mahaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alamin la sharika lahu. What does it mean? He says, indeed, my prayer, because the salat you are about to stand for is dedicated to God. So you say, my prayer, my religious right, that is nusuk, right? And then what? That is nusuk. And then, wa mahaya, that is my life. Wa mamati, and death. Lillahi Rabbil Alameen, belong to God, the Lord of the worlds. La sharika lahu, he has no partner, he has no associate. Right? So by saying this, if I'm praying alone or whether in a group, the group can know that my prayer, everything is dedicated to Allah, the God, the Lord of the universe. Similarly, if I'm going to pray, I know this prayer I'm going to do is dedicated to God. Remember, we are using the messenger as a good pattern. Now, apart from that, while standing, after saying A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim and saying this in the Salati wa Nusuki wa Mahyaya wa Mamati Lillahi Rabbil Alamin, now I'm starting my prayer. But what happens? God, according to chapter 17, verse 110, God says what? Say, Kul Adu
We
Allah
had a
aw
limit
Adu
thing.
Rahman ayyama tadu falawul
Keep
asma'ul
y'all
husna.
limit.
Now I need to call on God, God's name, to pray. Now God is telling me, invoke the God or invoke the gracious. Whichever you invoke, then to him belongs the best name. So God has the best names, Asma'ul Husna, and he has given you these names in the Quran. So according to chapter 7, verse 180, he says, and to God belongs the best name, so invoke him by them. Invoke him by them, by those names. This is the command of God. So if you are coming to call on God, he has given you the names you can call him with, not other names. Nothing like Allahu Akbar. God never gave you such. God says invoke him by his best names. So according to chapter 7 verse 180, he says, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَأَدْعُوهُ بِهَا فَأَدْعُوهُ بِهَا. Call him by it. Invoke him by them, those names. So according to chapter 59 verse 22 to verse 24, you will see some of the best names of God in the Quran. So we go to chapter 87 verse 15. It says what? وَذَكَرَ أَسْمَ رَبِّي فَصَلَّى. Now you have to mention the name of your Lord and pray. You have to mention the name of your Lord and pray, because now you are starting the prayer, right? So now it doesn't matter whether you want to raise up your hands, whether you want to say like this and choose the name you want to mention. For instance, to use the names of God, you can choose any name you want. So for instance, for me, I use the word God is great, or God is the great, Allahul Kabir, or Allahu Kabir, or you can use Allahu Rahman or Allahu Rahim. Whichever best name you decide to use is allowed according to God. So now I use Allahul Kabir according to chapter 13 verse 9, Surah Ar-Rad. You see the word Al-Kabir. God, well, that is one of the best names of God. This is the one I use to pray sometimes, or I use Ar-Rahman. So while standing, I can say Allahu Kabir whilst my hands are there, or I can just say Allahu Kabir. It's a sign of respect according to God. There is no mandatory command saying you have to lift your hand. No. Now, so whilst...
Okay, there we have it. That's enough of that to give me something to work with. You people, I'm sure you've seen his whole tutorial there. So before I get started to dissect what he said and give my point of view on where I think he's off base, let me begin with some verses from the Quran that I want to recite. And let me just make this dua. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. So I surely want Allah to help me with my speech, that I don't get out of pocket, that I don't say anything that insults or inflames animosity among anyone, but I do intend to be factual and hit the facts and let it fall where it wants to fall. I expect maybe to get some feedback on some of this, and we'll see where it goes forward. I have many other things I want to discuss that are brand new in my research, and hopefully next week, next time I sit, we'll start bringing some of that, but I just wanted to clean this up. Anyway, let me open with some of these verses here. Chapter 2, verse 43, where Allah addresses the Bani Israel. Chapter 2, verse 43. And we can start it. Says, you want to put that on the screen? Chapter 2, verse 33. There it says to keep up Salah and pay the zakat and bow down with those who bow down. Bow down with those who bow down. Ma'a raki'in. That was to bow down with those who bow down. So keep up Salah, pay the zakat, and bow down with those who bow down. In chapter 3, verse 42. In chapter 3, verse 42. Now that was Bani Israel. This is Mary. Chapter 3, verse 42. O Mary, be obedient to your Lord and humble thyself, and what? Bow down with those who bow down. Bow down with those who bow down. And the believers in chapter 2, 22, verse 77. Chapter 22, verse 77. O you believe, bow down and prostrate yourselves and serve your Lord and do good that you may succeed. Chapter 48, verses 28 to 29. Chapter 48, verse 28 to 29. He it is who sent his messenger with the guidance and the deen al-haq, the deen of truth, that he may make it prevail over all other religions. And even though, and I'm sorry, and enough is the law for a witness. Allah is enough for a witness. He sent his messenger with what? Al-Huda and the deen al-haq. 29. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and those with him are firm of heart against the disbelievers, compassionate among themselves. Thou seest them bowing down, prostrating themselves, seeking Allah's grace and pleasure. Their marks are on their faces in consequence of their prostration. That is their description in the Torah and their description in the Injil. Allah says that is their description in the Torah and their description in the Injil. Now, for those who believe that we don't have any Torah or any Injil, well, then that makes this verse here obsolete now because you can't find their description there. So that's obsolete. I'm saying no, the Torah and the Injil, as it's called, the gospel or whatever, has remnants of the truth in them. They're not totally destroyed. They're not totally lost. There are some truth in those books. And I'm a person who researched them, argued with them, and one thing after the other. And so I know what those verses are. Even Allah himself quotes in the Quran portions of Psalms and portion of the Deuteronomy. He quotes those verses himself. And those verses are there right now, what he quoted. So now, having said that, and I just wanted to show that the people were told to establish the Salah and then do the zakat, whatever that was, and then raka'a ma'a raki'in, to bow down with those who bow down. Now, I'm going to get into all of that kind of stuff later on when I begin a session on Salah and show you what that's the whole thing about. It can't be that you made the Salah and then after the Salah, you to go somewhere else and do bow down with those who bow down. But now let's take a look at what our brother presented as his tutorial. And I'm calling it a ritual dua. It's not a ritual Salah. And we saw our brother say that there's no evidence for any complete ritual prayer found either in the Quran or in the authentic Hadith from A to Z. You can't find it anywhere, nowhere, nothing. And so that's clear. And he said, show me just one place. And I'm backing that up to say, show me one place also when you get a chance. Ritual dua, the self-imposed required by you of yourself. This is what I'm saying that our brother Shuaib has done. He's made a dua into a ritual and imposed it on himself. Now he's about to recite, and he did recite chapter 29, verse 45. So he begins with A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. That's the way he was getting ready to recite 29:45, and he began his recital with A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Now I just asked my brother, where did you get that from? Where did you get that to say you quoted chapter 16 chapter 19 verse 68? It says when you recite the Quran, seek protection from Allah with Allah from the accursed devil. So you thinking now that to say, well, to do that is to say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, which Muslims all over the world say. I'm asking you, not the Sunni, I know where they get it from. Where, Brother Shuaib, did you get that from? It's not in the Quran. Where did you get it from? You have that hadith. Uh, let me put the hadith up where you got it from. You didn't make it up. You didn't imagine that. You got it from a hadith. You got it from the Sunnah. And here's the hadith. I have two of them. I just got one I'm going to put up. I have two of them. Let me see what it says here. Okay, here we are. We have the hadith in the Arabic and the English, and it says Abu Zayd rather Al-Khudri reported that the Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, peace and blessing be upon him, said, "When one of you recites the Quran, let him seek refuge with Allah from the Satan, the curse." And that reference for that hadith is in Sahih Muslim, Book 4, Hadith number 226. And it's also found in the Sunnah of Abu Dawood, Sunan Abu Dawood, Book number 2, Hadith number 775. And there it says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. It's right there in that hadith. That's where you got that from. You didn't get it from the Quran. So therefore, you're not following the Quran alone. And if you're not following the Quran alone, and you're quoting that as an authority for you doing your ritual salah, that's shirk. That's shirk straight up and down. That's shirk. Allah didn't tell you to quote to say that. And then again, you're wrong because the verse doesn't tell you to when you get ready to recite the Quran. The verse, that word there is in the past tense. The reciting is in the past tense. It's a perfect verb. That act is already done. That's once you have recited the Quran, then you seek the refuge in Allah. And I'm going to deal with all of that when I start breaking down the Salah thing that I'm going to deal with again going forward. I have some other things to deal with, but that's wrong. You don't recite the Uzu Billahi or seek protection or anything before the Quran. The verb is in the past tense. It's in the past. It's a perfect verb. You have already recited the Quran. Now you go and seek the protection of Allah after that. And this is why you're going to have a surah like Surah An-Nas, where you're asking Allah to protect you from the whisperings of the shaitan, because shaitan is going to be whispering at you all the time, and the only way you're going to protect yourself is by you have something up there that's blocking the view. This thing here, I don't know what that is. One second. We're on the job training here. Everything is real. We don't do any editing here. Everything falls. We let that thing fall the way it does. And so hopefully that gives a little flavor, gives a little genuine stuff to it. We don't clean up anything. I don't edit any of my videos ever, ever, ever. I don't edit anything. Never have, never will. Whatever I say and whatever I do it goes out the same way. So now, you said, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, and then you recited the verse. And there's no A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim in the Quran. That's from the Hadith. And so you're at best Quran centric. Quran century. You're not following the Quran alone. Simple as that. Now, that's just something you have to deal with. And it's in the past tense. That means after you have recited the Quran, that's when you now seek protection. And how do you seek the protection? By doing what the Quran tells you to do, and that's your protection. That's your protection right there. So now, I hope we got that straight, and I want everybody to check it out. And if you don't get a chance today, maybe you can come when I have my next Zoom session and I open up for questions. I'll take questions on anything that I say at any time. And so we can go back at this again. Now, he quoted 29:45, and 29:45, it says recite, but the word there is utlu. Utlu. It's not qara'a. It's not qara'a like in chapter 7, verse 204, where it says when the Quran is recited, then remain quiet. This word here is from the root word talawa. Talamwa. It means to follow something. To follow something. That's the root. It means to follow something. And so whenever Allah talks about following something in the Quran, do you think he means follow it from a distance? Or would he mean follow it closely? When Allah says follow something, he means to follow it closely, as close as you can be a follower or be in sync with it, as a matter of fact. Taba'a means not just to follow, but to be in sync. In sync. And so you would follow it closely. So when someone says, follow closely, and they make mockery of that, what do you think you follow when you follow the Quran? You follow it from a distance or however you like? We'll deal with that again also. I'm just picking at this now from what he's saying, but I'm going to lay all of that out in a separate video and a session of videos that I'm going to upgrade on my position on Salah to show that it's not a ritual, it's not a prayer, and that there's no rituals, period, in Islam, in the deen of Islam. There's no ritual, period. Follow closely, or to come after something, to emulate something. This is what the word means. The root word means to follow closely or to come after, to emulate or imitate, to follow, adhere to divine guidance. That's what that word means. In Lane's lexicon, you look at talawa, and you're going to see that that's what it means. Now, when it says recite the Quran, well, if I say recite the Quran, who are you reciting it to? Who are you reciting it to? And we look at chapter 10, verse 16. Chapter 10, verse 16, if you can put that on the screen. This is right after chapter 10, verse 15, which everybody mostly knows that verse. It says, the people come to the messenger and say, bring a Quran like other than this, or change it. And he says, it's not for me to change it of my own accord. I follow only that which is revealed to me from my Lord. Now in chapter 10, verse 16, what does it say? Can you make it a little bigger so I can read it there? It says, say, if Allah had desired, I would not have what? Recited it to you. I would not have recited it to you. He's not saying I would not have recited to Allah. He's not reciting the Quran to Allah. He said if Allah had desired, I would not have recited it to you. To you. And 17:106, what does it say? 17:106. And it is the Quran that we have made distinct. For what purpose? So that thou mayest read it to the people by slow degrees, and we have revealed it in portions. To what? The Quran for it? To read it to the people, recite it to the people. There's nothing in the Quran, period, nowhere to recite anything to Allah from the Quran. From the Quran. There's nothing to recite to Allah. Now, somebody's going to talk about dua and all of that. We're going to straighten that out for you and all of that also. We're going to deal with all that. So now, recite to whom? What about 7204? I just mentioned it. Let's bring it up. What about 7204? He says, Shuaib said, when you begin to recite the Quran, you say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, and then you recite in the Quran. We made that clear. It's not A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. That's from Hadith. It's not from the Quran. So that's following the Sunnah. That means that that's some shirk there, and you have to clean that act up. And when we're talking about the Quran, that when you have recited, it's past tense. It's a perfect verb. The action is done. Once you have done that action, that's when you seek the protection. And we're going to talk about how you get that protection and what that protection means. 7204, what does it say? And when the Quran is recited, listen to it and remain silent that mercy may be shown to you. This is shown again that the Quran is recited to the people and they are supposed to be listening to it. Now, you're not suggesting that to Allah. When you recite to Allah, you're not asking Allah to be quiet and be silent and listen to it all. You're not that bold. You're not doing that. I don't mean you now, Shuaib. I'm talking about you, anyone. Anyone who recites the Quran and thinking that you're reciting it to Allah because that's what you're doing when you start with the Fatiha, you're reciting to Allah. You're reciting something to Allah, and you continue on reciting to Allah. When it's to be recited to the people, it's guidance. It's not a request for guidance, and so therefore you're wrong to take that stance on 7204 as well. What about 17110 to 111? 110 to 111. And our brother Shuaib quoted verse 17110, but he didn't quote 17111, which probably would have helped him out quite a bit had he looked at that verse. Say, call on Allah, because he was talking about the best names to call on. As a matter of fact, I forgot something. I'm glad I came to this. I forgot when he said he starts his prayer, he says he has a choice. I think he said chapter 16 verse 9, 13 verse 9 or something. I'll probably get to it. But he said he has the option of saying Allahu al-Kabir or Allahu Kabir. So he chose to say in his recital, Allahu Kabir. There's no such attribute of Allah nowhere on this planet called Allahu Kabir. Not on this planet. I don't know what they do among the exalted chiefs. I don't know what they say. But there's nothing on this planet called Allahu Kabir. Nothing. No attribute at all. And why he didn't choose Allahu al-Kabir is beyond me when he saw it right there. But anyway, this one says, say, call on Allah or call on the Beneficent. By whatever name you call upon him, his are the best names. And utter not your prayer loud, nor be silent in it, and seek a way in between. So he recited that. But now the next verse tells you what to say. What to say. If you call it a ritual prayer, well, then this is what you say. And who are you going to say it to? You're saying this to Allah? No, you have to say this to some people that you're talking to. And say, praise be to Allah who has not taken to himself a son. Allah is saying that. Praise be to Allah who's not, this is what you're saying when you reciting your Salah. When you reciting your Salah. Praise be to Allah who's not taken to himself a son. we know who that is, basically the Christians, but the Jews have Ezra also. That portion of the Jews, Allah said that they take Ezra as the son of God. So whoever they are, it's not my business. I'm not trying to seek them out and and bring them to the front, but Allah mentions them. But we know as the Christians. And it says, and who has not a partner in his kingdom. He doesn't share anything with anyone else. He's not sharing. There's no Trinitarian concept. And to take a son would also be a partner, and the son could be in any form, any way, something that would assist the law, that you need to assist the law. Like the Hadith and Sunnah. Hadith and Sunnah could be metaphorically understood as the law taking a son, because it would assist him, and who has not a helper because of weakness, and proclaim his greatness, magnifying him. So now it says, proclaim his greatness, magnifying him. So we know what magnifying is. We know something called a magnifying glass. When you want to look at something real small, and you get this magnifying glass and you put it over it and it makes it bigger. And the further you pull the glass away, the bigger the item becomes. So now the way Allah magnifies himself in the Quran is by calling himself Al-Kabir. Al-Kabir. That's the way he magnifies himself. Al-Kabir. So when you said Allahu Kabir, that's totally wrong. And as a matter of fact, uh, if I can get a screenshot of this here, I got it right here. Let me see if I can put it up here. Can you put it there?
No, I'll take a picture.
1 second. Okay. This is a folder. This is a picture of a folder that I did. You might as well take a picture of this one also. I told you this is on the job. We're making things up on the job here as we go, trying to get it right. That we got kinks and stuff in our program, but we're learning, and we're old school here. I am a brother trying to keep up with me. I guess I'm kind of behind, but I hope that we're making sense by the time we finish. So now, what I wanted to put up was a picture of a document that I did maybe 20 some years ago on the word Akbar, Akbar. And I went through it thoroughly throughout the Quran as best I could. So therefore, my point is that I know about these attributes and how they work. Some people talk about them, but they never research them. They never did that kind of study. They just pick up on sound bites and they run with them. They get a word and they run with it. They didn't do the research. So I just happen to not patting myself on the back or anything, but it's for my own soul. So I did the research for my own soul. I don't get paid to do what I do, and I'm not looking for any award. I'm looking for a reward. My reward is with the law, not an award. So did you have that? You can put it up right now. It didn't come. If not, then we'll get back to it. So the Fatiha, I wanted to show. Okay, there it is. That's a picture, but it's a whole folder I got here. A whole folder that deals with that topic. Valid or invalid. Allahu Akbar. And that's what the brother said when he did his thing about not finding the ritual, the directions on the fundamentals of the Salah outlaid in the Quran and the Sunnah. In the Hadith, he said, he said the best you can do is Allahu Akbar. The best you can do. That's the worst you can do. if that's the best you can do, that becomes the worst you can do. That means your whole Salah is down the tubes from even Allahu Akbar is wrong. So we got that straightened out there. So now the Fatiha uh, is a seeking for guidance, and I'm going to get with this later on. But when you ask for the guidance, and Allah gives you the guidance, then in chapter 3, verse 7. As a matter of fact, let me leave this. I'm going to leave this because I got another fish to fry as soon as I finish this one here. Finish this fish here. I'm not talking about the brother being a fish, the argument. The argument is a fish. Let me be careful. The argument is a fish that I'm frying, this argument here. And then I have another argument that I'm going to put in the microwave. I got one of those things that got two sides in it. I don't know how to work them both at the same time. So I'll do one at one time and then the other one later on. Shuaib, we talked about 117, 110. What should not be said to Allah. Here's what should not be said to Allah. We just show what Allah says to say in your salah, whatever salah means. And I'm saying it's not a ritual. It's a gathering in which you disseminate this information about the Deen of Islam. That's a salah session, as our brother Joseph used to say. But I have a different little thing that I'm going to put down on it. But here's what you should not say. You should not recite chapter 108, verses 1 to 3. You should not recite that to Allah. And that is just like the Fatiha is recited to one individual. You see, the Fatiha cannot be recited to nobody but Allah. You cannot recite the Fatiha to a human being. It's the Fatiha is all composed of words of man. Words of man. They're not any revelation that's sent down. They're not a surah. And this verse here uses the word ka, which is second person, masculine, singular in the grammar, and it's recited to a individual. And that's Allah reciting this verse strictly to the messenger. What does it say? Chapter 108, verses 1 to 3. Surely we have given thee abundance of good. Inna atayna ka kal kaltha. Ka, the ka is second person masculine singular there. So pray to thy Lord and sacrifice. Fasalli li rabbika, ka is there singular, one ha. And then verse 3, surely thy enemy is cut off from good. Inna shani aka huwal abta. Ka. There's every verse has ka in it, and that's talking to one person. You can't recite that to Allah. Now, if you say, well, I pick and choose and I don't recite that, well, if you stand in, not you necessarily, you, the brothers and sisters who follow the Quran only, but those folks who follow the Sunnah and they do the Tawari prayer, where the Imam is reciting the whole of the Quran, standing there reciting it to Allah. He's not looking at you, he's looking forward and you're looking behind him, and he's reciting these surahs to Allah. He's reciting this to Allah. And if you say, well, brother, he's reciting it for our benefit, well, whose benefit is he reciting it for when you go and stand in this time for Salatul Dhuhr and Salatul Asr? And you can't hear nothing. He's not reciting it to you. You can't even hear what he's saying. People used to say, when we were Sunnis, they said we knew that the Prophet was reciting something because we saw his beard moving. We saw his beard going up and down. So he was reciting something. I'm saying, no, you can't recite this to Allah. Allah is the sender of revelation. Allah is the sender of revelation. He's not the recipient. Allah doesn't receive revelation. He sends the revelation. 25:30. 25:30, where the messenger will say, and that reflects the disconnect between rituals and adherence to divine guidance. This chapter 20, verse 30 makes a disconnect between rituals and the adherence to divine guidance. Because what the messenger will say, my Lord, my people have abandoned the Quran. He didn't say they abandoned Salah, abandoned Hajj, abandoned Zakat, abandoned Siyam, abandoned the Shahadatain. He said they abandoned the Quran. He didn't say nothing about rituals. So he's making a distinction about what was important was to follow the Quran closely, turn to it and follow it closely. And we know that in chapter 75, verse 31 to 32, if you want to know the foundation of the meaning of Salah, it's right there in 75, 31 to 32. That's where everything that talks about Salah is going to have to go back to that root meaning, which they didn't follow the truth, but gave it a lie and turned away. And they turned away. They did not adhere to the truth, but gave it a lie and turned away from it and rejected it. However that goes, I'm just ad-libbing here. Now, 33:21. 33:21, brother. Shuaib mentioned this in his tutorial. This is all stuff that he talked about in his tutorial. I just played a few minutes of it. I think the whole tutorial was about 25 or 30 minutes long. He quoted 33:21, the Uswatan Hasana, and talked about the messenger being the best example. But what about chapter 60, verse 4 and 6? The 60 verse 4 and 6. Now, if you read about chapter 33 verse 21, you'll see the context of that verse. The context of that verse talks about him being a good example in adhering to the dictates of Allah. I think it was basically, if I'm not mistaken, about war, fighting, and the people who wanted to make an excuse for not fighting and one thing after the other. And the messenger went out in battle and he fought, and he was a good example for the people there. But let that be as it is. We know that Abraham was a good example, the messenger himself as well, for the prophet messenger, for the prophet messenger, the messenger prophet rather. Abraham was a good example for them all. He says, in Abraham, you have a good example and those with him for those who believe in Allah in the last day. You have a good example in him. When he said to his people, what? We don't want nothing to do with you until you serve for Allah alone. Wahdahu, alone. So you have that example there. He concludes that 29:45 means reciting the book in Salah, reciting the book in Salah. Next, he talks about chapter 17, verse 110. We just went over that. He talks about chapter 72, verse 18. 72:18, again, leaving off verses 19 to 23. Let's take a look at it. Chapter 72, verse 18. And we're going to look at from 18, and then we're going to look right on up into 23. He talks about 18. And the mosques are laws, so call not upon anyone with a law. That's what it says there. Then it says, when the servant, and I'm saying the word there is abdan, abdan, it means slave. When the slave, do you have the corpus on that word? No, okay, no problem. We'll deal with it later. I checked it already. That word abdan, I'll get to it later on today, as a matter of fact. I'm sorry. I'll get to it later on. Yeah, no problem. I'll get to it later on. That's that other fish I'm getting ready to cook later on. It's the abdan fish. So we'll get it then. It says, when the servant stood up, calling upon his Lord. There's no salah there. That's dua. He was doing dua. He was calling upon his Lord. They almost prodded him to death. And the next verse says, say, I only call upon my Lord, and associate naught with him. Say, I control not for you, not evil or good for you. Say, none can protect me against the law, but let's see, nor can I find any refuge besides the law, besides him. So therefore, that's not talking about any salah there. It's talking about a dua, a dua. And this is the same thing I'm saying that our brother Shuaib has made up a ritual dua. He stood in the masjid or wherever he stands, not in the masjid necessarily, but he stands and he recites and he makes dua. Next, he quotes chapter 20, verses 11 to 12, and this is about Moses. He quotes this in his tutorial. I went through every one and made notes on it as I listened because he says I'm a hypocrite. And indirectly, he didn't call me by name. As a matter of fact, he spoke very well of me, and I speak very well of him. He's my brother. I love my brother. I love the work that he does. I love my brother Maverick X. I love my brother from Quran inspired me. I love my brother Yasser Dai. I love my sister, whoever's talking from this Quran and trying to bring out the truth of the Quran. We're together. I love them. But if they're wrong and I'm wrong, wrong is wrong. So you have to stand up against it. It's simple as that. I don't care if it's myself. I don't care. So, and I'm saying again, you can call me out by name. You don't have to go on the ground or throw some curveball. Call me out by name. Just be ready to make sure that what you got is right. Otherwise, you know I'm coming for you. So chapter 20, verses 11 to 12. He says that when God told Moses to take off your shoes, the ground that you're standing on is holy ground. So therefore, he concluded that when you enter the mosque, you must take off your sandals. When you go into the mosque or when you get ready to go to Salah, you have to take off your sandals. He didn't mention nothing about wudu, ghusl, or the garments or whatever. So Brother Shuaib concludes that Moses was in a mosque. He thinks that when God told Moses to take off your shoes, he was in a mosque. He wasn't in a mosque nowhere. To my knowledge, he was out somewhere in the plains, in the deserts or somewhere, and he saw a light somewhere, and he went thinking that he'd find something to warm himself with or find guidance, some direction where to go. He wasn't in a mosque, but he says, well, take off your shoes. So therefore, wherever you're going to call on the law, you take off your shoes. You see, if you're on an airplane and it's time to make salah, you take your shoes off on the airplane. If you are in your lawyer's office and you're sitting there and the lawyer saying, well, look, I don't have no room, but you can go in and sit in the corner over there. You have to take off your shoes. Take off your shoes wherever you are. I'm saying, no, there's no instruction for that. So, chapter 72, verse 18 to 19. I'm asking, was that servant barefooted there? Was he barefooted? In chapter 17, we just did it. I'm not 17, 72, 18 to 19. 72, 18 to 19 was the servant that stood there. Was he barefooted? Do you know? Do you know if he was standing barefooted or not? You don't know. You don't know. There's nothing told you to take off your shoes. That was Moses years before Muhammad, and whatever that was taking off his shoes for, it's not my business. I don't know, but nobody told you to take off your shoes. As a matter of fact, the Sunnis will tell you that you can make something called massa or something like that, where you wipe over your socks. If you have leather socks or something like that, you wipe over them, or your shoes if you pray with your shoes on or whatever. About Moses, chapter 20, verse 13 to 14. Moses, 20, 13 to 14. He said that God told Moses to establish the Salah for his remembrance. My question is, did Moses ask for any details of the Salah? Did Moses ask for details of the Salah? Did Allah give any details at that time? Where were the details? Where did Moses get that information from? Well, in my research, it shows that Moses hung out in the same place that Shuaib hung out, not the Shuaib Abdullahi, which means Shuaib, servant of Allah, slave of Allah, but he doesn't use that anymore. He uses correction officer. But Shuaib Abdullahi means Shuaib, the slave of Allah. We're going to show that in my next fish fry dinner. But meanwhile, I'm saying, did Moses ask for any details? Did Allah give him details? No, he had been over there where Shuaib was. Shuaib was in Midian before Moses, and apparently it must have been that Moses already knew what Salah was. He didn't ask for details, Allah didn't give him. No details, Allah didn't give him. And he said to establish the Salah for my remembers. And then we know that in chapter 29, verse 45, that the remembrance of Allah is even greater than the Salah. The remembrance of Allah is greater than the Salah, greater than the Salah. So if I just go around every day and remember Allah, there's no need for me to even do any kind of Salah if it was a ritual prayer or whatever Salah is. The remembrance of Allah is the greatest thing, is the greatest. And Allah talks about the Quran or the Kitab being the reminder. And Allah talks about those who remember Him, He will remember them. And chapter 21, verse 10, Allah said, this book is about your dhikr. It's about your remembrance. So that's greater than the Salah. If I had to pick and choose, I said, well, I'd just rather remember Allah than do all this 5 times, 17 times a day and asking Allah and standing up and bowing down and doing all of that. If it was a ritual prayer, that wouldn't make sense. Everybody would say, wow, let me just remember Allah. And if I remember Allah, that'll keep me from fahish and munkar. So that's easier. Remember, Allah is greater than Salah. Now, I wonder if you have to take off your shoes to remember Allah. Just when you're walking around every day remembering Allah, do you have to take off your shoes? If you have to take off your shoes for Salah, then why not take off your shoes for remembrance of Allah is greater than the Salah? You can see that it just don't make sense. When you start looking at it, don't make sense at all. Well, I'll tell you. No, 2436. 2436, speaking of the light in verse 35. And brother quoted this verse. He said that that it's in houses in which Allah has permitted his name to be exalted and to be remembered therein. To be remembered therein. Now, do we have to take off shoes in everybody's house that we go to? That when we start talking about Allah, if I go to somebody's house and this brother come and have dinner, my friend is I said, brother, what do you think about God? What do you think about life after death? What happens to you when you die and all that? And so, you ever think about God? He says, yes, I believe in God. And we're talking. I said, well, let's take off our shoes because we're remembering God. We have to take off our shoes. Take your shoes off. What are you talking about? Take your shoes off, man. You can't talk about God and we remember God with your shoes on. If you got to take them off for the Salah and the remembrance is greater, take your shoes off. You can see that don't make sense. Chapter 2, verse 114. He spoke about something there. Read chapter 22, verse 40. He says, oh, chapter 22, verses 40 to 41. And there is translated as synagogues, mosques, clusters, and churches. Synagogues, mosques, clusters, and churches. So what does synagogues got to do with this issue of ritual Salah? We don't see nobody doing a ritual Salah in the synagogues, especially if the Salah, Allah taught everyone that you said that Moses taught us, Abraham taught us the ways of devotion. You ask the Sunni Muslim or anybody pretty much, say, excuse me, where'd you get this idea of Salah from and as a ritual? So, well, Abraham. Abraham taught everybody, yes, the requirements of the deen. I said, well, Abraham, there's no record anywhere in the Quran that Abraham ever made a ritual prayer. There's not one place in the whole Quran that Abraham did a ritual prayer. Not that he didn't say, oh Allah, make my people keep up the Salah. Well, that was just one thing over in chapter 14, somewhere over 40, in the 40s or something. If it's a ritual, that was only one ritual. He didn't ask to make my people keep up the fast and make my people keep up the zakat and the hajj and the shahada. He just said, make them keep up the salah. Make them keep up the salah. But there's no record anywhere in the Quran that he ever performed a ritual prayer. And there's no record that Noah before him ever performed a ritual prayer. There's record of Shuaib, and you look throughout the whole uh, uh, quotations, all the quotations in the Quran regarding Shuaib, you'll find nothing in none of those quotations of a ritual salah. Yet the people, when they understood Shuaib's speech, they said, "Does your salah command us?" Etc., etc. But there's nothing that they can say, well, we saw him doing ritual prayer. What is this ritual prayer that you're doing? Nothing. So you got that all wrong. And so we're going to straighten that out later on in future lectures. Inshallah, we're going to get that. We're going to come at that and skin that cat real good. So, uh, in chapter 7, verse 29, he quotes chapter 7, verse 29. And there's nothing about Salah in every mosque. It's only dua, dua, dua. At this point now, Brother Shuaib begins to demonstrate, and I said again, he's demonstrating the procedure. And I jumped the gun on it, but he started with chapter 2, verse 238, and he says the prayers. He spoke about the Salah, but he neglected to mention 239, verse 239. Let's look at chapter 2, verse 238. Chapter 2, verse 238 and 239. That's when he stood up now and began his demonstration. And we played about 10 minutes of it just now. And you make it as big as you can. We can leave the Arabic out. They can look at the Arabic later. I just want to be able to read it without having to change glasses because these look a little more stylish than I'm wearing. I have to be a little bit stylish to some degree. 238. God the prayers. It says, God the prayer and the most excellent prayer and stand up truly obedient to Allah. Now, verse 239. But if you are in danger, it says in brackets, say your prayers on foot or on horseback. And when you are secure, remember Allah as He taught you what you knew not. As He taught you what you knew not. Now, is there anywhere in the Quran where Allah taught you the Salah? The brother just said in his soundbite that we took that there's nothing of a ritual prayer from beginning to end, how to do it in the Quran. And even our Sunni brothers will indict us for that. They say, brother, if you think you don't need the Sunnah and the Hadith, how do you make Salah? That's the first thing they say. How do you make Salah? They know it's not there. You know it's not there. Then now we know it's not over there where they go either. So they just making it up themselves. So that you said that the prayers was three prayers, and you said two of them was fard, and one was nawafil. That's what Brother Shuaib said. He said two of the prayers are fard and one nawafil. Now, where'd you get that from? There's nowhere in the Quran that says two prayers are fard. Nowhere, not one place at all. Where'd you get it from? You made that up? You didn't make that up, did you? You made that up? Because Allah knows the word fard. if you think he doesn't know the word fard, take a look at chapter 24, verse 1. There he uses the word fard. We used to talk about fard ein and fard kifaya. One is that if some people do it, it takes the burden off of everybody else. That's what we were taught when we were Sunnis. And one that everybody had to do it. So they said that Salah, ritual Salah, was fard ein, I believe it was, and everybody had to do it. And like if you go to a janazah prayer, then that was fard kifaya, and some people would do it and take the burden off the rest of the community. Let that be as what it is, some old school baggage. But apparently Shuaib is keeping some of that baggage with himself now. And I'm saying that because he indicted me and others like me of being hypocrites and the enemy within and in the lowest part of the fire. That's not nice. That's not nice. And if it wasn't for him being Shuaib and I respect him and honor my brother the way I do, I'd be blistering harder in this lecture. Harder. So I hope we don't have to elevate this to something like not with Maverick X, because I'm not the one that you want to elevate with. I'm not that one you don't want to elevate with me on matters that I know. You don't want to elevate with me on that at all. Otherwise, it'll be not a nice thing. 24, not a nice thing in the sense that you will lose. 24:41. Anybody. My main argument is Hudan. Hudan. Once I got Hudan clear, everything else falls by the wayside because Hudan is going to either tell you what's right or what's wrong in this Quran. Is going to be fully explained, detailed, and clear. Nothing left for you to make up. 24:1. What does it say?
24:1.
Chapter 24, verse 1. There, if I'm not mistaken, it talks about a surah that is made for Father. It says this surah, which we have revealed and made it what? Obligatory. The word is Father. Can you move over to the Arabic and see the word Father there? You see it right up there. Yeah, that's it right there. Yeah. He's made it Father. So Allah knows what Father is. He didn't say nothing about no how this prayers being Father and some being wajib. What about 38? Now that's a surah that's Father. What about 38? 33, 38. 33, 38. Allah uses the word Father again there. 33, 38. Says there's no harm on the prophet in which he has ordained for himself. What is the word there for ordain? Father. There it is right there. Farada. Farada. What about chapter 66, verse 2? Chapter 66, verse 2. I want to show that Allah knows the word Father. He could have used it. Allah has indeed sanctioned. What is the word sanction? Yeah, it is there. Farada. Made obligatory. Father. And one more. Chapter 9, verse 10. Chapter 9, verse 10. They respect neither ties nor relationship nor covenant in the case of a believer. And these are they who go beyond limits. Is the word father in there? Do I have the right verse there? You don't see it there? Let's see the next verse. The verse before, let me see. I didn't write the verse out. Is it in the verse that precedes it or the one after it? I just wrote down 110. I might have been a little groggy at the time. Do we find anything? No? All right, so we'll pass on that. We'll let that go. I can check that up later. Anyway, we see that Allah knows the word Father, and there's nothing in the Quran that says two salahs are Father and two not. So that's something you made up yourself. And so it's the same way that people made up Ameen after they recite the Fatiha, they made up Ameen. It's not in the text. And so somebody made it up and put it there. It's no problem. So that's what you do. You make it up as you go along. So that's a ritual that was made up. Now, he quotes chapter 3, verse 38 to 39, or 38 or 39, Zechariah's prayer. Zechariah's prayer. Chapter 3, verse 38, it might be 39. And there is not salah, that word there is not salah, it's dua. It's dua. And I think I mentioned before, you see, Allah does not respond uh, to dua in this life. He doesn't come in this life and because you make dua and change anything. He'll change you can make dua for the life after, and he will change those things for you on the day of Qiyamah. What he wants you to do in this life is make tawbah, and that's how you protect yourself, and that's how things are changed by making tawbah. But Shaitan wants you to make dua. He doesn't want you to make tawbah. Shaitan doesn't want you making tawbah. He wants you making dua. Now, so the word there is a dua. It's not salah, but we'll see what it is. And then the next one, verse 38 says, the angels called to him while he stood you subtly. So now the word subtly is there. But if you look at the same word, you subtly, the same word with the same construct, the same vowel marks, everything in chapter 33, verse 43, it's not salah, it's blessing. It's blessing. How'd that happen? It became barakah. Allah knows what blessing is. He knows the word barakah. If you want us to call it blessing, I don't even accept the word blessing, but we'll talk about that later on. But it's the same word. You suddenly in chapter 38 and verse 38 of chapter 3, verse 38. And then in chapter 33, verse 43, it's the same identical word, you suddenly. You suddenly. And then it's translated as blessing. Which one is it? Can't be both. Allah uses the word blessing, barakah. He quotes chapter 3, verse 112. He said they prostrated themselves. They prostrated themselves. He makes a big deal about the people prostrating themselves in chapter 3, verse 112. Well, what does it say? You're looking for that verse? All right, let's take a look at it. Chapter 3, verse 112. Can you make it bigger so I can read? Uh, a basement will be there a lot, whatsoever uh, wherever they are found, except under a covenant with the law and a covenant with men, and they shall incur the wrath of Allah, and humiliation will be made to cling to them. This is because they disbelieved in the messengers of Allah and killed the prophets unjustly, and because they disobeyed and exceeded the limits. Now, what am I quoting that for? That's not the word prostrate so much in the verse before or after. 3:112, 3:112. It might be 3:111, maybe.
Recite last message.
Hmm. They're not alike of those of people in the book. They are those who sought the party. No. Is it 3:111? They will not harm you save for a slight time, and they fight you. I don't know what is this now. 3:112. He quoted 3:112 as prostrate. Uh, Yes, Judun. Yes, Judun. It was. If I didn't get the verse wrong. 3:112. Yes, Judun. Let me look in my Quran. Let's see what I have here. 1 second. I have a magic Quran. My Quran is different. It's not the same. No, I'm just kidding. It's the same. Let's see if I got 3:112 here. They're not alike of the people of the book. They're those who upright a party who recite Allah's messages in the nighttime and they adore him. Yeah, that's it. They adore him. The word adore him is yasjudun. 3:112. It's on the end of the word. And end of that, you see it?
Yes, children.
Yeah, yasjudun. So that's it. So now, if you look at if you're saying that's a physical prostration, well, the same identical word is used over in chapter 22, verse 18. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. 22:18. 22:18. And we said that verse starts with, do you not see? Alam Tara'ah. Do you not see? That means it's something that's visible that you see. That's visible that you see that. Seest thou not that Allah makes submission whatsoever is in the heavens and whatsoever in the earth, and the sun and the moon and the stars and the mountains and the trees and the animals and many of the people, and many they are those whom chastisement is due. And he whom Allah abases, none can give him honor, and surely Allah does what he please. Now, Brother Maverick quoted that verse, but he probably didn't heat it up right, and so the brother refused to eat it. You know, you're gonna serve somebody lunch, a soup or something. You don't want to take it right out of the freezer and give it to them. You want to heat it up. So this, I can't eat this. This stuff is cold, man. So Brother Maverick should have heated that up, and maybe Brother Shuaib would have imbibed it and drank that. It says everything in the creation is doing this sujood, and some of the people, and we know some of the people don't, because the law talks about those who, when the Quran is recited to them, they don't sujood. And we're going to talk about that further and make it clear about what that's about. This verse and the other verses, so that we don't be mistaken. This is not a physical prostration at all, in no kind of way, sense, shape or form. So now we'll continue on. Brother Shuaib, again, I said we dealt with that already. You quoted 1698. Whenever you recite the Quran, seek protection. It said, by this I say, he says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. We asked him where did he get that from, and he didn't get it from the Quran, and we showed that he got that from Sahih Muslim. So that makes some shirk right there. We gave an observation here. The protection is only after you have recited the Quran and not before. Qara'ta is in the second person masculine singular. That's a perfect verb. It's a perfect verb. And that's according to Lane's lexicon and according to Lisan al-Arab. Both of them talk about that verse being a perfect verb. And so therefore, Korata is in the past tense. It cannot be interpreted as a present or future. It can't be interpreted as present or future. It's past when you have recited, not when you reciting or when you recite in the future. It has to be in the past. It's an action that's already done. Next, he says, while in the standing position, you recite from the Quran, from the Quran. The Fatiha, I'm saying to him, is not from the Quran, from the Quran, and that this is going to be part of the other fish dinner as well. The Fatiha is not part of the Quran. That's why it can never, ever be recited to any other than Allah. Never, ever recited to any other than Allah, as opposed to like we talked about 17106, that you recited to the people 10, 15 to 17. If Allah had will, I would not have recited it to you. And we take a note on chapter 2, verse 23. Chapter 2, verse 23. What does it say? Chapter 2, verse 23. Now, did I show you that picture? I give you a screenshot of the Fatiha. Can you just post that, please? After you get this verse. Okay. Yeah, this is a folder. I have a folder right here that I did research on the Fatiha, because the other fish that I'm going to fry wants to know, where do you get that from? That the Fatiha is not a surah. I got it from research, not from where you got it from hearsay, from some secondhand, and you just don't like it. I got it from research, and I put the research up on YouTube also for everybody to look at. And I got it thoroughly broke down. I did the research. I didn't just grab a sound bite and run with it. And now you're gonna have to pay for that later on in a few minutes coming up. You're in the batter's box. You know, like in baseball, the next batter is up and hoping that everybody can get on base and he can get a chance to hit. Well, I'm gonna save you, make sure that you get on, that you come up to bat. If I have to pay the umpire, I said, walk that guy. Don't strike him out. Walking.
The other ayat that we were doing is zakat. The farz was 960, not 966.
Which one?
The farz ayat was 960. We couldn't find it.
Yeah. What was it? Can you put it up?
960. That's the farz ayat.
Okay. 960.
Yeah, it was the farz ayat. We were looking at 960.
Okay. Zechariah. Oh yeah. Charity is only for those. Yeah. Charity is only for the poor and the needy and those who, this is the verse I couldn't find before, employed to administer it, and for those whose hearts are made to incline, in parentheses, to the truth, and to the free, in parentheses, and the captives, and those in debt, and the way of Allah, and the wayfarer, and ordinance from Allah. There it is. That's the word farada there. It's an ordinance for Allah, and the law is knowing wise. That's the verse I couldn't find before. So I don't know. I might have been drinking some of that strong juice. No, that. So now we say, he said, in the standing position, you recite from the Quran, and we said, no, that's not right. In chapter 7, verse 180. Did we do 223?
No, we are doing 223.
We did that.
No.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Let's not go too fast. Let's go back and get that. So in 10, 15, 17, the prophet said, it had it not been for law, he would not have recited to you. In chapter 2, verse 23, it says, and if you're in doubt as to that which we reveal to our servant, then produce a surah like it, a chapter like it, a surah like it, and call your helpers besides the law if you're truthful. So if you're in doubt about what was revealed to the prophet, the messenger prophet, then produce a surah like it. So that's clear right there, telling you that what was revealed to him was called surahs. Now, I don't know of anything else on this planet Earth that's identified as a surah other than the portions of the Quran, what we call chapters of the Quran, surah. And the word basically means to enclose something, something enclosed, to put a fence around something. And it puts a fence around various ayats of the Quran. They're enclosed around, and so they're called a surah. So if you're in doubt, then produce a surah like it. I'm saying, well, I'm in doubt about, no, I'm not in doubt. As a matter of fact, I'm sure that Fatiha is not a surah. It's not a surah. Fatiha is not a surah. And surahs are sent down, they're not sent up. And then so if somebody now wants to get happy with themselves and they can earn my respect enough for me to deal with them, I'll deal with them. I prefer some very learned scholar to come in and you talk to them and say about this brother here and let them tell you the brother know what he's talking about and say, well, will you be interested in confronting them with that? And he's a very well learned scholar who knows Arabic. Not that I'm learned. I'm just dealing with the Quran. But if he's learned, the Quran will get him. The Quran, I'll put the Quran on him. The Quran will get him. You see, I stand behind the Quran. So it will get him. It will get anybody. So he'll let him come out with his Grand Mufti or whoever he is, and I'll get him with the Quran. Simple as that. I've done my research to study enough that I feel confident that I'll get him. I'm confident before Allah that I'm ready to die with this and stand before Allah, so I don't worry about him. He's nothing to be concerned with. What about chapter 84, verse 21? Why did I put that there? I didn't put it. I just got some things here. I didn't put any uh, uh, idea about why I put them there, but it's evidently I looked at something and thought it was worthy of my time to quote it there. So let's take a look at 84:21. 84:21. And when the Quran is recited to them, oh yeah, there we go. What? They don't sujood. La yasjudun. You see? They don't sujood. You see, Allah says everything does the sujood, except some men. Some of the men and some don't. Here's some of them don't. When the Quran is recited to them, they don't do the yasjudu. They don't accept it. Yasjudun. They don't accept it. They reject it. You see? And right, you see that big prostration on the side. They say that they used to teach us when we were doing that, that whenever that you recite that verse, you stop right in the middle of the recital and prostrate. You go straight down into a sujud, then you stand up and continue to rakat. So that's what they were saying about that. So some other stuff that they made up for themselves. Next, he talks about 180, and we talked about that before. He invokes an 180 and says that God has given you the names that you should call on him by. Not, and I said, not Allahu Akbar, not Allahu Akbar. God never gave you that name. And you have mentioned the name, and then you pray. That's what he said. So he used the word Allahu Kabir, and we said that's not anything from the Quran. He said, for me, I use the word God is great. That's what he said. I use the word God is great. I listened to it carefully. I said, I'm sure my brother didn't say that after reading Allahu al-Kabir, that he didn't say Allahu Kabir. And I listened, and I had somebody else listen, and they said, yep, that's what he's saying. Allahu Kabir. I said, there's no such attribute. No such attribute. Where'd you get that from? So that nullified your Salah tutorial right away, and it nullified your Udu Billahi Minash Shaitan right away. All that tutorial now, you have to do it over again. You have to do that over again. Unless you want that to stand and have people misled. I don't think you want that weight on you like that before Allah. Be kind enough to reconsider it and get that straight. Now, if anybody ever wants to talk to me about it, see, I'm not in the the game of going and sitting on podcasts and places and we having discussion. I'm a debater. If you want to debate me on something, I'm saying like an issue like this here, make your argument, give yourself 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever you need, and present your case. I'll present my case. Then we cross-examine each other, and then we open it up for questions and answers and the closing statements. That's the way I operate. I debate. I'm not interested in small talk, backwards and forward. You got your time, I got mine, and then we'll see what it look like. We'll see who got the argument. No such name in the Quran as Allahu who could be. And that's what he thinks is magnifying Allah, Allahu Kabir. So now, with that, I'll end this talk with my brother regarding his calling me and other people like me who don't do a ritual. Now, I didn't break down the term ritual. I didn't break down the term ritual. I got it right here. I got it right here in my book here. But I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna save some things. I want to see what kind of feedback I get from this here before I bring some other heavy stuff down. I just want to see. This is like bait. I want to see if I get jumped. If I get jumped like Brother X got jumped. If they wouldn't jump me like that, you see? And then I'll bring some other weight down on you. But meanwhile, that'll end that. And I think I think 2 points stand. If the 2 points stand correct, that you said A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim before you recited 29:45. There's nothing in the Quran to tell you to say that. And we showed you the hadith where you got that from, if you got it from there, or you just got it from your training, your upbringing, and you heard somebody else saying it, so you say it, and people saying. I'm not saying you went there and got that. I'm just saying you just did it, but you got no proof from the Quran for it, and it's wrong. You shouldn't be doing it. And then when you say before you recite the Quran, you say "A'udhu billahi minash shaitan." It's not before. It's after. It's after. It's after you have recited. It's past tense. It's not present when you're reciting it now. It's not when you recite in the future. It's when it's already been recited, and we can deal with that. So let that be the end of that story for now. Now, what happened again? And I consider that shots fired at me. That's the point. That's the old street slang we use. Shots fired. So I think there was some shots fired, and then you was shooting at somebody else instead of shooting some little ballpoint kind of thing, slug. So you hit the guy you're hitting. You shot with some scatter gun, and now I got all wounded. I had to go to the doctor and all that. So look, the guy fired a shotgun on the subway and was shooting at a guy, and I'm sitting right next to him, and now half of my arm is blown apart and all of that. Why'd you do that? You know, just wait till the guy get up and move somewhere by himself if you're gonna use that, and then do whatever you're doing. It sounds kind of violent and all that, but I'm just saying, no, you're painting with too broad of a brush. Put it that way. You get a smaller brush the next time when you start painting. Don't paint with such a broad brush. You're getting stuff all on my Tiffany lamps. I got some Tiffany lamps and stuff, and you painting all over them. What the guy doing? Yeah, brother, I had a brush. I had the wrong brush. Well, I hope you got the right money to buy a new Tiffany lamp. So now let's look at something else. And brother, you have that slave argument, that Abdul argument that I gave you. Let's take a look at it. The board I put up something like this here. Well, he's got it there. He's going to put it up. Oh yeah, good. Let's look at this word slave, because that's what we're talking about. Because the brother, before we start, Brother Shuaib again brought up this idea of a slave. He was somewhere, I think, in Ghana recently, a couple of weeks ago or whatever, and he was talking to some lady there that's pretty popular. She has the podcast, YouTube or whatever it is, and he was discussing with her, and he brought up the idea of slave again. First of all, he had made a video and said that you should never call yourself a slave. As a matter of fact, he upgraded and said, you would be a fool to call yourself a slave, a fool. Well, I call myself a slave. So am I a fool? No, I'm not a slave of some person, some man. I'm a slave of Allah. I'm a law slave. And I'm going to show you how I got to be his slave right now. And it's going to be a nice dose for you to eat some lunch today on this one. I'm upgrading this slave thing again to another level. So now I got the soup all heated up since I had the brother warm it up while we were doing the first talk. I said, warm this up because if I got time, I'll serve this up as well. So this is that chart I gave him just now. You can't see it on this thing here, but you see all pieces of it. I kind of worked on it, but he's got it there. So now let's take a look at it. He mentioned that's it right there. He mentioned this at the talk he had with the lady. And I said, well, why do you bring that up again? Slave. Don't call yourself a slave. And I call myself a slave. He said, you'd be a fool to call yourself a slave. Well, then, fool that I am. There's an old Dinah Washington song called Fool That I Am. So let's take a look. The first one up there is Abdan. Abdan, 1675. 1675. Chapter 16, verse 75. What does this say? Chapter 16, verse 75. Now, Brother Shuaib used this in his slave argument. When he spoke about what a slave is, he used this verse in his slave argument, chapter 16, verse 75. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he did. 1675. Allah sets forth the parable. There's a slave, the property of another, controlling nothing. He's the property of another. He don't control nothing. And there's one to whom we have granted from ourselves goodly provisions. So he spends from it secretly and openly, are the two alike. Praise be to Allah, nay, most of them know not. So there the verse is saying, Allah is setting forth a parable for you. A person who is a slave. What is the word slave in there? Can you highlight it? Can you look at it? What is it? Abdan. 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 There it is right there. Abdan. That's a slave. It's a person who's a slave. And he don't control nothing. Yeah, he's the property of another. So Allah is giving a general situation about a slave being a property of another, like human slavery and so forth. But I'm a slave of Allah, and I'm going to show you why I'm the property of Allah, so therefore I don't control nothing. I've sold myself out. I'll get to that in a few minutes. I just want to establish the word Abdan, being a slave, so that we see that in chapter 16, verse 85. That's a slave. We don't have any problem with that. Okay, so let's take a look at chapter 4, verse 172. Chapter 4, verse 172. Chapter 4, verse 172. We're going to see who the fool is when we finish, who the fool really is. And I'm not going to call nobody a fool. What I'm going to end up with is going to be far worse than calling a fool. Trust me. You'll love to be called a fool by the time I finish this lecture here. Now, the Messiah disdains not to be what? They got a servant. Because you see, they the translators, when they talk about God and scripture and all that, they don't like to use the word slave. Slave is in the text, but they don't like to use it because it seems to repel people a little bit. Some people, slave. I'm not a slave. And so it says servant. They say servant. Well, slave is the servant of the highest order. The slave is the servant of the highest order. But meanwhile, what does it say in the corpus? Are you looking for that? Abdan. Oh, what does it say right there? Slave. But we don't care. We don't care about the corpus. We know. We can check Lane's lexicon. We can check Lasana Arab, but we have the Quran. The Quran is telling us what it is. The Quran is telling us what. But we'll look and see just for the sake that we're not making things up. And so that's great that we're going to look and see and check every word. So therefore, the word is Abdan. Can you put the chart back up again? The chart that you have. So the Messiah is a slave. The Messiah is an Abdan. You see the first two? I got them color coded. So you can see the first two. Abdan for slave, or slave in the real sense, and Abdan for the Messiah. It's the same word. Now, you think Allah got time to play games with words? He doesn't know the words. He's playing games with words. It's the same word. Same marking, same everything. Same everything. And we went over there, and it said slave. If you go, everyone I give you right here, when you go check in the corpus or check with the lexicons, it's going to say slave. It's going to say servant as well, but it's going to say slave. But I'm going to show you the difference between servant and slave. It's going to blow you away when I get down to the end. It's going to blow you away. It's going to be very bad. It's going to be a nice thing. It's going to be bad. That's what you get for starting trouble. When you start trouble, you better make sure that you got your act together, especially when it comes to me, because I stand behind the Quran. If the Quran doesn't say it, I don't do it. I'm not doing nothing. The law gave me a get out of hell, a free pass. 1736 is my pass to get out of hell. So what? Don't do nothing that you don't know. Don't pursue nothing that you can't certify. Leave it alone. Just believe in Allah and do good deeds. Believe in Allah alone and do good deeds. You got your ticket in. But when you start dibbling and dabbling and stuff and getting confused and use second sources and all that, that's your ticket to hell. Shaitan wants you to do that. Okay, so now we got those two. Now let's take a look at chapter 2, verse 178. I believe my brother Shuaib quoted that verse in his argument about slaves also. Oh, you believe retaliation is prescribed for you in the matter of the slain for the matter of the slain, the free for the free, and the slave for the slave for the slave. Now, what is the word slave there in that verse? The slave. There it is right there. Al-Abdu. Al-Abdu. The slave. Al-Abdu. The Baz with Al-Abdu. The slave. The slave. There it is right there. The slave. The slave. Al-Abdu. Okay, that's chapter 2, verse 178. We have no problem about what slave means in that verse. All right, so let's take a look at chapter 38, verse 44. And we're going to look at our good brother Job. Job, who Shaitan tried to entice away and try to provoke and all that. And Allah put him through all kind of trials and tests and hardships and all that. And Job hung tight. Job hung tight. And why did he hang tight? Because he was a slave. Let's take a look. Job chapter 38, verses 44. I think verse 41 is going to tell us what it is. Let's look at verse 41. Well, let's start at verse 40. Let's look 41. And remember our servant Job. We want to know who we're talking about. Remember our servant Job when he cried to his Lord, the devil has afflicted me with toil and torment. The devil is all on him, just riding him hardcore. Next verse. Urge with thy foot. Here is a cool washing place, and a drink. Verse 43. And we gave him, Job, his people, and the like of them with the, like of them with them, a mercy from us and a reminder for men of understanding. And take in hand a few worldly goods, and earn goodness therewith, and incline not to falsehood. Surely we found him, Job, patient, most excellent, the servant, the slave, the slave. What is the word in there? Al-Abdan, Al-Abdu, rather, Al-Abdu. That's the same one, the same word we found in the other verse about the slave. So now what? Most excellent the slave, not just a regular slave, most excellent the slave. Slave. He wasn't a fool. He wasn't a fool to be a slave, you see? And certainly we want to say to call him a fool by anybody would be to call him a slave would be a fool. A fool. We know where these verses came from. We know the source of the verse. We're not going to say the source of this verse doesn't know what they're talking about. Not to use that other word that can scare me to death. I might have a stroke here if I say it. 38:30. Let's take a look at one more here now. 38:30. And we're talking about Solomon. And we gave David Solomon, most excellent, the servant, the slave, Al-Abdu. You see it? Al-Abdu. There it is right there. Now put your chart back up with color coded on it, and let's see. Look at it. You see the turquoise looking color? Everyone is the same. Everyone is the same. The slave, original place slave, Job slave, Solomon slave, Al-Abdu, Al-Abdu, Al-Abdu. Now, Allah got that wrong? We agree that the first one is slave. We agree that the one on top is slave. Now, here's slave right on through. Okay, this is just the beginning of your woes. Let's flip this chart over now. We're going to flip it over. You see, you need to be calm. Don't get too excited, you see, with stuff, and fall back for a minute and make sure you check good. Because if it's something I'm saying, you better make sure you check it good when you come after me, because I'm not going to open my mouth in public about my Lord unless I'm sure about what I'm saying. I'll keep my mouth shut. I don't have nothing to gain. Nobody pays me. I'm not looking for hits on YouTube. I'm not looking for nothing, royalties or nothing, 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 nothing. I'm only looking to save my soul, and perhaps if I can inspire one other person on the planet to turn to Allah and look at them, not me. Don't get involved in me. Just turn to the Quran and look at the Quran and guide yourself. And I can stand before Allah and say, and Allah said, you know that one family here because of something you said. Because Allah has already done it. He's already talked in the Quran about one family of believers that he found in a town before he went to them. One family is good for him. One family is good for me. So now, here we go. Abdullahi. Now we got Abdullahi. Abdullahi. You see? Hamza Abdullah. Shuaib Abdullahi. As a matter of fact, he got it, the whole thing. Shuaib, the correctional officer brother, he has Shuaib Abdullahi. That's what he was going by. Now he calls himself the correction officer, which is fine, no problem. You got that little picture I got there? As a matter of fact, I don't think he's this old. I got a picture back 50 years ago. Let me show you that picture. 50 years ago. He wasn't born at the time, so don't think I'm biting off him with that picture. I got a picture look at that picture there. That picture is signed and sealed, and it's called Investigator. and that was given to me by one Sheikh Daoud Ahmed Faisal in Brooklyn, one of the biggest names in the Muslim in America among the founders of Islam, with other people in Islam. A brother, I think he was from Jamaica, Trinidad, or Barbados, or some foreign country, but everybody knew him. He had a masjid down at State Street, and everybody would come down there, foreigners particular. And so him and Brother Khalid Yassin, I'm sure a lot of people know Khalid Yassin. If you don't know him from back in the day, you must be living on a rock somewhere, because he was one of my proteges. He's a brother who I gravitated towards. And right now, we're the best of friends, even though we disagree. We disagree, but we're the best of friends. But that picture was given to me, and I was able to go into the prisons and advocate on behalf of the Muslims who were taking their shahada in prison, to make sure that they got good food, good treatment, place to pray, and do all that kind of thing. Look how young I was and the kind of gear I was wearing. And at that time, I was real thug life. I just came out of thug life, and we were thug life type Muslims. And if you mess with us out like Muslims out there, you had problems to deal with. You had problems to deal with. It was the days when you come in the masjid and you wasn't right, they slap you right on down the stairs. It was hardcore thug life. But I was the investigator. And so now, if he's the correctional officer, then I'm going into the House of Correction to correct the officers in the correction officer building. And that was before he was born. I didn't just make that up. It's got a seal on it. And I got another certificate as a missionary. Me and Khalid Yassin, we both got the same ones. And that brother that was on Bushwick Avenue, Dr. York and all that, he got one years later, and act like it was something big. We had already got ours from then. I still have mine right now because I'm a hoarder, and so I keep stuff like that just in case. But anyway, I just said that to say that your name, Abdullahi, is slave of Allah. And let me set that record straight right now. Chapter 72, verse 19. Chapter 72, verse 19. I'm not boasting and bragging when I do stuff. I just want to make sure I'm backing up what I say. I don't care nothing about none of that. Nobody don't support me, and nobody don't do nothing. I'm an independent person. I only trust in the law, and that's it. I don't trust in my mother, father, sister, brother, nobody. I trust the law. And then after that, whoever's close to me with this trust in the law game, then I'm with them. We're together. The further you get away from that, the further you get away from me, and I get away from you. Abdullahi, 72:19. What does it say? And the servant, meaning the slave stood up, calling on Allah. What is the word? Abdullahi. You see it? Abdullahi. 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 You see? The slave of Allah stood up. Now, chapter 19, verse 30. Chapter 19, verse 30. That was 72:19 we just finished, right? Chapter 19, verse 30. He said, talking about Jesus, he said, I am indeed a slave of Allah. He has given me the book and made me a prophet. What is the word there? Abdullahi. Abdullahi. Check Lane's lexicon, check Lisana Arab, check the word abada. It means Allah says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Ya'budun, abadun, to be a slave for him. That's all you're here for. Not to serve him, because if it's to serve him, he created you to serve him, then you define his purpose, because people don't serve him. So it said, oh Lord, you created these people to serve you, and look at them. They're not serving you. They're not, what happened? But you're a slave for Allah, and that's what you are. And we're going to show you that that's the way you're going to show up when you come back. Slave. You are a slave for Allah. You have to do what he tells you to do. You have to go to sleep at night. You have to go defecate. You have to eat to live. You have to do things in this world that Allah put in order for you to do them. You can't just decide, I'm not gonna breathe. This air is dirty out here and they got COVID and all that. I'm not breathing. When I go outside, I'll just cut my breathing off. Well, go ahead and try that and see how long before you can cut it back on. Once you cut it off for a couple hours and try to cut it back on. So now we see Abdullahi. Another place, chapter 4, verse 172. Chapter 4, verse 172. And I'm being a little lighthearted and joking, and people say, the brother's so arrogant, and why you got to be so arrogant? I don't care nothing about that. That's what I do. That's who I am. I'm just trying to make it light. I could blast you. You're talking about my Lord in this way. I'll blast you. I'm the prosecuting attorney on the defense side. I'll indict you and bring you up before the grand jury and get you indicted, bring you to court, convict you, and try you and then punish and announce punishment on you. That's what I do. And so you're talking about my creator like that, the one who created me. Allah tells you that the skies and the heavens and everything ready to fall down for you saying a son. You think I don't care nothing about that? I care hard about that. If if you just misunderstood, no problem. We can talk about it. But if you're being forceful and saying that this position is right as opposed to this wrong, and I know that you're wrong, I'm coming hard on you. I don't care nothing about it. I'm squashing you. I'm squashing you. Your argument, not you. I'm squashing your argument. Back in the day, if you jumped up, you would have got squashed along with your argument. That's the way we used to roll. You would have got squashed with your argument too. And some brothers out there who are now still listening, they know those old school days. They know them. I ain't going to call their names, but they know them. So we have three, right? Slave of Allah. 172. Did we put it up?
No.
Okay. Let's put that up. 172. The Messiah disdains, now we talked about Jesus before. Now the Messiah, just talking about him again, he disdains not to be what? Abdullah, a slave of Allah. Nor do the angels. The angels will be the same thing. Who are near to him. And whoever disdains, whoever don't like to be a slave of Allah, disdains his service and is proud, he will gather them all together to himself. Now, I don't want to jump the gun. I don't want to jump the gun on this one, but keep this in mind. It says, the Messiah, this is going to be heavy now. The next verse I'm going to bring. The Messiah disdains not to be but a slave of Allah. He's happy to be that. And the angels also are happy to be that. The angel means all the forces that work on behalf of Allah, not flying things with wings and stuff. All the forces of Allah that govern creation. They are the slaves of Allah. And whoever is proud, whoever disdains, don't like to be a slave of Allah, and they're proud, he will gather them together to himself. Now, what's the word in there? Abdullah. Now put the chart back up again and let's look at our words. There they are. The three words on the top, color coded. Abdullahi, 7219. Abdullahi, 1930, Abdullahi, chapter 4, verse 172. All slaves of Allah. Slaves of Allah. Abdan? Yeah.
4172 is Abdan.
Huh?
4172 is Abdan Lahi.
Oh, Abdan? Okay, good. Brother pointed out to me that 4172 is Abdan, but we already know that we got Abdul for the Messiah. Let's take a look. Yeah, that's the servant over there. He put a servant over there. Okay, so now that's not going to be a problem. Here's going to be your problem now coming up now. Now, when we read chapter 19, verse 88 to 85 in context, but verse 93, 1993, 1993, 1993. But the context goes from 88 to 95. We're not going to read all that. I got to serve up this other fish dinner. I don't want to have time to give you a few minutes to digest this, and we get the other one going. There's none in the heavens and the earth, but will come to the beneficent as a what? Abdan. Nobody in the heavens and the earth is going to come to the beneficent except as an Abdan. Abdan. Now, we went over and did the Abdan on the other page before. Abdan, Abdan. We said slave, Messiah was Abdan. And everybody will come as Abdan. You see, that Abdan, I didn't put it on the other side. I wanted to save it for here. So everybody will come to Allah as an Abdan. Let's get the corpus and see what the corpus said on that one. Just for the little corpus people. Let's put it there. Everybody will come to Allah as a what? The same way He created you for. He created you to be a slave, and that's the way you're going to show up. A slave, look at it. Abdan. There it is. Abdan. Everybody will come to Allah on that day as an Abdan, as a slave. You're not going to come as no servant. What a servant have a choice and all that. Okay, let's get hot now. Let's get into this thing right here now, hot. Let's get hot. Now, remember I said that Messiah disdains not to be a slave, nor the angels, the Malaika. Now, there's somebody who disdained to be a slave. And we go all the way back to the beginning, and that was Iblis. Iblis in the garden didn't want to be a slave. Everything in the garden in paradise in that day was a slave, a slave. And that means that everything Allah created, everyone Allah created, He created them as a slave. That means they didn't have any what? Autonomy. For those who don't really know what the word means, I can't assume that everybody knows that word, and so let's put it out there. But people know what it means. But I'm going to assume that maybe somebody doesn't, so I want to make it clear. Autonomy is the ability to choose or make choices independently and without coercion. It can also refer to the state of being independent from external control. And it comes from the Greek word autos, A-U-T-O-S, meaning self, and nomos, N-O-M-O-S, meaning law. No law. In other words, I don't have no law. I'm an outlaw. No law governs me. I have autonomy. I can do whatever I please. So the first one to show autonomy was Iblis. When Allah told him to submit to Adam, he refused. Why? Because he had free will. Nothing else had free will. Nothing else had free will. Malaika, nothing else had free will. Only Shaitan and the jinn. Shaitan was of the jinn. And so Shaitan exercised his autonomy and said, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm not no slave. I'm a servant. I can choose to do whatever I please. And I don't have to submit to Adam. You don't own me. You don't own me. I don't have to submit to Adam. So now, Iblis. So when you call yourself a servant, you're on the pattern of Iblis, not the pattern of Job and Solomon and Jesus and the Malachi and all of creation. All of creation has to do what Allah says to do. They have no option. Now let me just get something straight here before I go any further. Uh, with this. Chapter 5, verse 56. Chapter 5, verse 56. And whoever takes Allah and the messenger and those who believe for friends, surely they are of Allah's party. They are of Allah's party. They shall triumph. They shall triumph. Now, chapter 58, verse 19. Whoever takes the law and the believers and as a friend, takes the law and his messenger and those who believe as a friend, surely they are of the party of Allah. Just the opposite, chapter 58, verse 19. The devil has gained mastery over them. So he has made them forget the remembrance of Allah, because we said the remembrance of Allah was the greatest thing. He's made them forget the greatest thing that they have, greater than Salah, the remembrance of Allah. He didn't make them forget Salah. He made them forget the remembrance of Allah. They are the devil's party. Now, surely the devil's party is the loser. Now, the devil's party and the devil was of the people who want to call himself a servant, want to have autonomy, not a slave. The slaves are of Allah's party. Now, let's show how that works. That breaks down. Chapter 9, verse 111. Chapter 9, verse 111. Surely Allah has brought from the believers their person and their property. Allah bought that. He's bought that he owns it now. He owns the believers, their person, their person, their whole being, and their property, whatever you got. He bought you and whatever you got. He's bought it from you, the believers. Theirs, theirs in return is the garden. What you're gonna get for selling because you put it up for sale and Allah bought it. So what are you gonna get? The garden. They fight in Allah's way and they slay and are slain. They give their life. They fight in Allah's way. because now they've been sold out and bought by Allah and they're slaves. And so Allah said, fight, they fight. And they slay and they slay people and they are slain because they're bought by Allah. It is a promise that is binding on him in the Torah and the gospel and the Quran. So now if you say there's no Torah and there's no gospel, no Injil, well, then that promise is not there. And so that verse is moot. We have the Quran. If the Quran is here, that means the other two are here also. And whatever form that remains, not that it hasn't been changed, is complete and all that. We know that. I know that kind of argument good. I talk comparative religion. I know that. The average person don't know what they're talking about when they talk about biblical matters anyway. They don't know what they're talking about. They haven't studied like that. So who is more faithful in his promise than Allah? Now look what Allah says. Rejoice therefore in the bargain which you made. You made a bargain. You sold yourself out to Allah and became a slave. He bought you and your property. You don't have nothing. Remember Allah said, who is the man who has nothing and the man who has this, who's more of worthy of something, however that verse went? We said, now this man has nothing. He's sold out to Allah, and Allah said, "Not, don't be mad. You got the garden for this, and rejoice in the bargain which you have made." And what does it say? Rejoice in the, and that is the mighty achievement. And that is the mighty achievement. That is the mighty achievement. Now, let's take a look at chapter 2, verse 207. Chapter 2, verse 207. What does it say? I think that's the word. There it is. So now, and of men is he who what? Sells himself. He sells himself to seek the pleasure of Allah. And Allah is compassionate to the what? Slaves. Al-Ibadi. That's slaves. To the slaves. Allah is compassionate to the slaves. You want to take a look at the corpus and see, make sure we're right? Because the man sold himself. What does it say? So he's putting servant, right? So you see again, not wanting to use the word slave. Why? Because Allah has already bought you. You don't have no autonomy. Allah bought you. He bought you and bought your person and everything that you own. And Allah said, make good on that bargain that you made, with him. And then not only that, he says, Iblis is the one who doesn't want to have be known as a slave. So anybody who doesn't want to be known as a slave and wants to be a servant with autonomy, with the choice to choose to accept or reject, we're talking about Allah, not humanity. You can accept what Allah said or reject. Allah says He created you to serve for Him. I don't believe that. I don't accept no Quran. I don't believe it. I'm a Christian. I'm a this. I'm a that. I'm an atheist. I'm a this. I don't believe that. I do what I please. Nobody tell me what to do with my life. This ran a campaign just recently. God don't come in my bedroom. He don't tell me what to do. He don't tell me what gender I can be. I can be whatever I want. You see, I have free choice. I have free choice. But the slave has no choice. He has to do what Allah says. Shaitan is the Iblis with the choice. And so therefore, if you're taking that servant stand, you're taking a stand along with Shaitan. I'll leave that at that for right now. And I'll see if I get any feedback on that later on coming down the road. And then if we have to upgrade on this here and take it to another place. I hope we don't have to do that. I hope it'll just leave it there and you make a choice to do whatever you want and all that. But if you want to come back at me like, well, all this information I presented is wrong, That's going to be a hard sell for you to deal with. I don't know what you're going to present. Now, so that's the end of that. Now, here's the other dinner. Excuse me, you got that dinner ready? Yeah, I think they got it ready. So everybody can come to the table now and get ready. This is the Hanefan Al-Huda dinner. This brother named Hanif, he calls himself this channel Hanefan, and he talked about Huda. I think he fired some shots. Do we have any
Video.
video of that? Yeah, let's take a look at the video. I think he fired some shots he got out of pocket. And it wasn't so much that he fired the shots, but then he said something else that really got me jumping. So let's see what he said.
Now here's another verse, something similar, chapter 19, verse 76. And Allah increases, وَيَزِيدُ those who were guided, اِهْتَدَوْا, in guidance, huda, and the enduring good deeds are better to your Lord for reward and better for recourse. So Allah not only does He guide us, He increases us in guidance, brothers and sisters. Okay, here's another verse, chapter 47, verse 17. And those who are guided, اِهْتَدَوْا, He increases them, zadahum, in guidance, hudan, and gives them their righteousness. SubhanAllah, this sort of begs the question, doesn't it? Now, is guidance from Allah, is this something that should be sought just once and never again? Or should we be seeking Allah's guidance regularly, brothers and sisters? Now, the reason why I bring this up is because there is an individual on YouTube. Now, brothers and sisters, I have the utmost love and respect for this man. In fact, to me, he's like a father figure. I've learned so much from him, okay? But he's got this view that Surah Al-Fatiha, the surah in which we say, Ihdina Salat al-Mustaqim, right? Guide us to a straight way. He's got the view that once Allah has guided us, there's no need to keep asking for guidance. He's got this view. But the question is this really how the Quran presents itself regarding guidance? Is this something we should just be seeking once and never again? Or is this something we should be doing regularly? Now, he's got this other view also that once Allah has guided you, there's no need to ask for guidance anymore. But I'm going to once I get to the conclusion, I'm going to get you thinking, brothers and sisters, is this really the case? And in fact, this brother also has got the opinion that Surah Al-Fatiha is not part of the Quran. Now, I don't know where he gets this from. I disagree with him on this completely. But again, I've got the utmost love and respect for him. In fact, I've learned a lot from him. May Allah bless this brother. Okay, moving on.
There's another end. We're going to play this other part, and this is where he upgrades now. And I'm thinking, he didn't mention names, so I don't know. Somebody would say, well, brother, he didn't mention your name. I'm the first person that I know since I've been a Muslim, that has ever said that the Fatiha is not a surah of the Quran. I'm the first person I know, and I made that argument. And I make that argument still. But now, so maybe he heard it through somebody else. Somebody else might have said something to him, and he might have been talking about somebody else. But meanwhile, he's got to be talking about me because that's my position. That's my position. So whether he's talking about somebody else, he's shots fired, and he's painting with a broad brush. And look what he says now, and this really got me jumping.
Brothers and sisters, let's not kid ourselves. We are in so much need of Allah's guidance, brothers and sisters. We should be asking for His guidance regularly, brothers and sisters. Okay? We should be doing it regularly. And we should put away our pride and our arrogance. Okay? We are in need of guidance, and Allah is free from all needs and wants. He is Al-Ghaniyul Hamid. He is As-Samad. He has no need for anything, but we are in need of Allah. Make no mistake about it, brothers and sisters. I hope you guys have enjoyed the presentation. Again, I wanted to thank you, brothers and sisters, for all your support and your kind words. I really appreciate it. May Allah shower you with His blessings. Until next time, stay safe. Salam alaikum.
Good. So now he ends up saying we should ask for Allah's guidance regularly, and we should put away what? Our pride and our arrogance. pride and arrogance. Now, so apparently he thinks that whoever said that the Fatiha is not part of a surah and that you shouldn't be asking guidance and over and over is full of pride and they're arrogant. I'm saying I don't think you're ready for this now. You're new jack at this game. Making these arguments. You've made so many arguments and with so many things wrong, and I'm not lying. There's people who are listening right now know that I discuss everybody's videos, mine and theirs, and I point out certain things. But I said I'm not going to bother these folks because they're doing good work, and I'm not going to stir up any trouble. I'll let it go. But I hold these things just in case I need them. Like now, I need them now. You see? So now I have to get back at you now because you're using that kind of statement. If you didn't mention me by name, but that's me. That is me. And so now I have to clear you up. Now, first of all, before I even present anything, you done shut yourself in the foot right out the gate, because it was 38.11 minutes in. We don't have to look at it. You said that you quoted chapter 3, verse 7. Now, we'll take a look at chapter 3, verse 7. It might be verse 8 in your Quran. But let's take a look at 3:7. Because when you said Ihdina Siratal Mustaqim, you see, he's making a mistake thinking that you have to ask for guidance over and over again. No, you don't. You have to follow guidance. Now it's follow guidance. You don't ask for guidance. There's no Ihdina anywhere in the Quran. Anywhere in the Quran, after you say Ihdina and Fatiha, nowhere else in the Quran are you asking for guidance. Ihdina, not one place at all. Not one place, because you have the guidance. And I'm going to set that up now and just put that mess on blast. But he already jammed himself. Look how he jammed himself, not even knowing. What does chapter 3, verse 7 say? Okay, it's going to be verse 8. Our Lord, make not our hearts deviate. What? After thou hast what? Guided. Past tense, us. After you have guided rather, us. And grant us mercy from thyself. Surely thou art the most liberal giver. So that's, if you're going to say anything, if anything, you're going to look at the tense of that? Good. Let's take a look at the tense. This brother's on the case. He's hopping over there to check that tense out, make sure we got it right. It's the second person masculine singular, perfect tense. Perfect tense. That means the action is done and complete. The action is done and complete. So don't let us deviate after you have guided us. You have guided us already. Why would we be asking you for guidance? You guided us already. It's the perfect tense. It's already done. That's what the whole Quran is, guidance, Al-Huda. Now, just in case, to show you that even that is not necessary, and I think if Alan, if you're listening, you know this verse. You know, you and I have talked about it and said, we see how silly it is to be doing that. And I'm sorry to have to call you out, but I said, you know that verse. I'm not going to ask you to quote it. I'm going to quote it right now. Look, chapter 9, verse 115. What does it say? Chapter 9, verse 115. You said, oh, our Lord, let not our hearts deviate after you have guided us. You have guided us, not while you're guiding us and not while we keep asking for guidance. You already guided us. Allah says in chapter 50, verse 20, chapter 20, verse 50, Allah created everything and then what? He guides. It says, look, it is not attributable to Allah that he should lead people astray. What? After he has guided them. Guided them. The same word. After he has guided them. So much so, he's going to show you so much so that he makes clear to them what they should guard against. Surely Allah knows of all things. So you shot yourself in the foot already right out the gate while you're talking. You didn't even know what you're talking about. Allah won't let you, he's not going to let you deviate, so much so that he made it clear what you should follow. Now, if he didn't make it clear what you should follow, and it was ambiguous, and it was unsure to you, and you didn't know, he said, oh, Allah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Oh, Allah, we were not of the mushrikeen. No. Allah says, see how you lie. We made it clear to you. Everything is fully explained, clear, detailed. Everything is in the book, nothing left out. So that's how he made it clear. So therefore, you cannot be misguided. You just have to what? Follow the guidance. You have to follow it now. You're not seeking guidance. Anybody who's a Muslim and who has the Quran no longer seeks guidance. They're looking to follow and establish the guidance in their lives. Before you got that, you might be seeking guidance. You see? So you're following. So let's take a walk now. Let's take a walk. You shot yourself in the foot and you already jammed already. But now let's just jam you more because you're talking about put away your pride and your arrogance. You best now to put away your pride and your arrogance and walk this back. You've already had to walk things back before. So this might be another back walking you have to do. You've walked things back before. And I don't want to be hard on you, but you're out of your league. You shouldn't be talking too smart right now and saying things like that, especially to me, because I'm not to play with. I'll come after you. I'll come after you verbally, intellectually, with argument from the Quran. That's what I do. I'm Allah's attorney. I'm his attorney, and I defend him. You're not gonna. He doesn't need me, but I volunteered to do that. That's what it is. So now let's take a look. Chapter 1, verse 5. That's a request for guidance by people who are monotheistic people. The people in Fatiha are monotheistic people. They begin by talking about the unity and oneness of Allah and that He's Alameen. He's the Rabb of Alameen. These are monotheistic people. These are not people who don't know about God. And these people, I'm saying, are Bani Israel, and they have been promised a prophet like Moses, and they have been asking Allah, where's that prophet? We want that prophet. Even Jesus and his crew was the Bani Israel. They were Bani Israel. And so therefore, they knew about a person that would come, they called him the Paracletos, or the Spirit of Truth, that would guide them into all truth. So everybody was looking for this final truth. And so when it came down in chapter 2, verse 2, and it says that book. It doesn't say this book, this book. It doesn't say this book. It says that book. And the brother yourself who made this video, you quoted it and you said that book. But then you came back to this book after saying that book. Which one is it? That book, which is something distant from you, or this book, the one in your hand? I'm saying it's that book, and we make that argument. We made that argument day and night. I do it in my sleep sometimes. I'd wake up making the argument while I'm asleep. So wow, I'm arguing with these folks in my sleep. So now, guide us. You never see that no more. You see it when David asked for guidance in 38:22, Dina, that was for some dispute. They were having a dispute, and they came to David and asked David to settle it. I think it was two brothers, and they asked David for his wisdom, his guidance, or whatever in that case. So you find a semblance of the word there. And then the next time you'll see it on the day of Qiyamah, where Allah says, guide them to hell. Guide them to hell. But in this life, guidance for the truth and for the Al-Huda and the salvation that you might get, if I use the term salvation, to get back to paradise. Nobody asks for that anymore. You have it. You have the Quran. Now, that Fatiha verse was answered. You don't have to ask over and over again. Brother, it sounds ridiculous. You should always be asking Allah for guidance. Why would you ask Allah for guidance, something He already gave you? He's already gave it to you. Why would you be asking him for the same thing over and over again? That's ridiculous. 17 times a day, 3 times a day, 4 times a day, however many prayers you make and all that, you ask in the law, Ihdina Siratal Mustaqim. Allah says in chapter 2, verse 2 to 5, what does it say? Chapter 2, verse 3, he's answered that right away. There was a Bani Israel that asked that question, and Bani Israel is who he begins to address right away after Fatiha. This the Bani Israel that's being addressed, not the Arabs. He's not addressing Arabs. He's addressing Bani Israel right there. He says that book. It says this, but it's that book. There's no doubt in it. The word is dhalika. That's grammar anywhere you look at it. It's not that. We make that case. I show you examples of that in the Quran. So no need to argue about that. That book, what? Is a guide. There's no doubt in it. It's a guide to those who keep their duty. Next verse. Who believe, meaning trust, with the unseen, and they akimu salah, and they spend out of what they've been given them. I'm leaving that untranslated because it says keep a prayer, but I'm going to show all that mess is wrong later on. But I hate to even say it, but I'll say it now, keep up prayer. I hate to even say it, and Allah knows my intent that it's not praying. Now, it's a guide for those people who do that, who trust with the unseen, and they keep up the salah, and they spend out of what they're given, and who believe in that which has been revealed to thee, and that which was revealed before thee, and of the hereafter they are sure. So Allah is telling the messenger that it's for what's been revealed to you. And what is the Arabic word for reveal there? Unzila. 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 And that's the word that's used in chapter 2, verse 185. Unzila. This Quran has been unzila, sent down. Unzila. So they believe in that and what was revealed before them, what was revealed to Moses. And then we know over there in chapter 28, verse 49, the messenger said, bring me a book that's a better guide than these two books, and I will follow it. A better guide. So those two books guide. They guide to the Sirat al-Mustaqim. They guide already. Now, again, in case that wasn't good enough and you want to broaden the scope, then Allah addresses all Ahlul Kitab. All Ahlul Kitab, whoever got a book in the world up until the time when the messenger came, Allah addresses them, chapter 5, verse 15 and 16. What does it say? Nobody's asking for guidance. Nobody's asking you have to follow the guidance now, not ask for guidance. And Allah says if you follow guidance, He increases you in guidance. That's by following the guidance. He's not increasing you because, oh, Lord, give me more guidance. Oh, Lord, give me more guidance. That's not enough. How much He gave you? Well, He gave me, well, that's not, go back. That's not enough guidance. He didn't tell you how to make the salah yet. It's not going to go ask for more guidance. No. If you follow guidance, automatically you get it increased in guidance. You're not getting you're not getting a guidance as if you weren't guided. You're being increased in guidance by following the guidance. But here in chapter 5, verse 15 and 16, O people of the book, yeah, Ahlul Kitab, that's all the people who have the book. Indeed, Allah is showing this up. Indeed, our messenger has come to you, making clear to you much of that which you concealed of the book, and passing over much. Indeed, there has come to you from Allah what? A light and a clear book. Now, I've been through all this stuff in my lectures. No need to break down all of this now, but you already know what it is. You heard it before. Whereby, be he, there's a little simple word. Look at that little simple word over there. Be he. Be he. You see it right there? Be he. That's a little simple word right there. Be he. Be he. A powerful word like Hudan. Little word Hudan. Little word be he. With it alone. Single source. Whereby Allah guides such as follows His pleasure. Look, follow. The ones who follow His pleasure into the ways of what? Into the ways of peace, brings them out of darkness into light, and guides them to the Salat Mustaqim. So what are you talking about? What are you talking about asking for guidance? He's already did it. That's right there. You were saying that verse is wrong? That's wrong? No. He says who follows his guidance. He guides them out of the darkness into the light. What about 17:9? Let's up the ante. Let's up the ante more. 17:9. You probably don't even notice. You didn't quote it in your verses, and you probably didn't know this. You're making haste with the Quran before its meaning is made clear to you. 17:9. Surely this Quran guides to that which is what? Aqwam. Aqwam. That's from the same word that mustaqim, kawam, comes from. This guides to aqwam, which is more than what you asked for. You asked for mustaqim. This gives you more than you asked for. Guides to most upright. They say most upright. It's upright, more upright, more upright, and gives good news to believers who do good, that theirs is a great reward. Who do good, meaning follow the advice, follow the message, follow your nafs. Your nafs will tell you what's good. Do good. So this Quran guides to more than what you asked for. So why in the world would you be asking for Ihdina when the Quran guides to more than that? It says guides to what is Aqwam, more than what you asked for. Why would you come asking for less now? You should ask for Aqwam, Al-Aqwam, something higher. Don't ask for less. You don't know what you're talking about. You see, and you got smart by saying putting your pride away in your arrogance. You see, you shouldn't get smart like that. You don't know me. So why would you consider I'm proud and arrogant? Which I might be. But it's not for you to open your mouth and say that. And if you do, now you're getting burnt now. I'm burning you with that. So that's the price you have to pay. You can do it if you want. I don't care. I got thick skin. You can do whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. Like I said, call me by name. You just better have your stuff right when you do it. That's all you do. That's all I'm saying. Now, about Muhammad, chapter 6, verse 162. Let's see if your position holds clear. 6, 162. Six 162. Let's see if we have to keep asking for guidance. Brothers and sisters, we need to ask for guidance. Brothers and sisters, we need to keep asking for guidance. What do you ask one time? You ask one time? Yeah. You ask one time and the law answered one time, that's good enough. That's not good enough for you? You say, oh, Allah, I don't like what you gave me. It's like when you tell us the story about Moses, Muhammad going up and down to get the 5 salahs. How many gave you? 50? Nah, go back. Nah, go back. Nah, go back. So you want to just keep asking for guidance because you're not happy. 6 162. Say. No, it's going to be 161 up there. Say, as for me, I don't know about you. The messenger says, as for me, I don't know about you. I don't know what you feel. I don't know what you feel, what you accept. I know the fact of the matter is the same as me, but maybe you don't accept that. Maybe you're the party of Iblis. You understand? You have autonomy and you can just choose, I don't think I'm guided. So as for me, my Lord has guided me to the straight path, a right deen, the faith of Abraham, and he was not of the mushrikeen. As what? My Lord has guided me. That's a perfect verb, past tense. He's guided me already. Let's check that verb out and see if it's perfect. If it is, he's not asking for no guidance no more. That means he never could recite that in Fatiha again. He never recited it in the first place, and he never would recite it. What does it say? Second person masculine, singular, perfect verb. Is that it?
Third person masculine.
Huh?
Third person.
Third person was the perfect verb, right? It's a perfect verb, meaning the action is complete and done. The action is complete and done. My Lord has what? Guided me. I'm not going to stand here and say, Ihdina Sirata Mustaqim. I said, excuse me, Prophet, did I just hear you say a few minutes ago when you was giving the lecture that uh, you said Ihdina Sirata Mustaqim, that Allah, you asked Allah for guidance? Did you say that we should do that? No. Well, didn't I hear you say that your Lord has guided you? Yeah. So why would you be asking for guidance again? What's wrong? Wow, Zaid, I never thought of that. I know you got a point there. Wow, silly me. I'm just saying that it would sound like that. I'm not making mockery or anything. It's just you're foolish. I wanted to say something else. It almost slipped. You so foolish that you talk this stupid stuff. That somebody asking for guidance every day, 17 times a day. They're doing it every day right now. They can't run, just run into the masjid. It's Dina Sirata Mustaqim. When this Quran has got everything. That's why you're getting beat down all over the world right now, all over the world. Christians in Iran, that people want to become Christians. They want to get this yoke off their back and all that because of you stupid people. You understand? People of knowledge, people of ill, people who are sheikhs and mufti and alims and all that. You don't know nothing about this Quran at all. Nothing. You don't know nothing about the Quran at all. You've just been duped. And Shaitan is just beating you day and night. It's got you jacked up day and night. So now, 93:7. This is why I'm saying to you that the Prophet never recited the Quran. Not the Quran, my mistake. Never recited Fatiha. He never recited Fatiha. He wasn't a person that recited Fatiha. When the law came upon him in chapter 93, verse 7, he was the law. He was the law. You said in Fatiha, Ghairul Maghdubi alayhim waladhdallin. Don't let us be dhalin. Well, he was the law. That's what Allah said. Allah said that, not me. Allah says, did we not find you? Look the verse before. It says, did we not find you an orphan? And we gave you shelter. Wow, that's right. You were an orphan and we gave you shelter. And by the way, next verse. Did we not find you groping? The law, Fahada, and we guided you. And we guided you. We found you the law and we guided you. Not you didn't ask Ihdina Sirata Mustaqim. Allah knew your heart. He knew what you was yearning, and whatever the case is, that's not my business. It's just that you didn't say Ihdina Sirata Mustaqim for Allah to guide you. There's no evidence of that at all. You was the law. You couldn't have, the people of Fatiha wasn't the law. You were the law. Do you understand that? I hope the listeners understand that. You look carefully at this. Don't talk about the brother arrogant and he's got to be this now. I have to stop. Almost ready. I wish I could be speaking freely the way I'd like to speak to you in the street. It wouldn't be nice. I'm saying, what kind of foolishness are you talking? And you talking that mess to me? I've been doing this for a while. I'm not the new Jack. I'm not a new YouTuber. I'm at this for a while. 55 years, and half of the people listening to me wasn't even born then. It wasn't even born. Before that. I'm not bragging, I'm just saying I'm not a sound bite man. I don't do sound bites. Now, let's see about, again, would the prophet be saying, Ihdina Sirata Mustaqim? Chapter 36, verses 2 to 4. Did brother look at these verses? Brother HANEEFAN from his website, I don't know what his name is. I know his name, but it's kind of hard to pronounce. I don't want to be disrespectful with your name and all that, but I'm blowing you away because you talked about being arrogant and proud and all that. So now I'm coming on you hard for that. I was going to get this lightweight for you until I heard that part. When I heard that part, I said, oh, hell no. No, I got to come hard on you now. You done got way out of pocket. Now I gotta squash you. Even though I still listen to you and I respect you and all that. But in this argument, I got to squash you now. 36, 2-4. By the Quran full of wisdom. Surely thou, what? Surely thou art one of the messengers, what? On the Salat Mustaqim. You're on the Salat Mustaqim. A revelation from the mighty, the merciful. You're one of the messengers. What? You're on the Salat Mustaqim. Why would you stand there and say it's Dina Salat Mustaqim in a ritual prayer of 2 rakats, 3 rakats, 3 salahs, 2 salahs? I don't care how many salahs it is. You wouldn't stand there saying that in no salah at all. Period. Unless you just doubt that Allah is right, and when he said that you're on the Sirat al-Mustaqim, you're wrong when you said, as for me, my Lord guided me already to the Sirat al-Mustaqim. All of that would be wrong and foolishness, and people would laugh you to the end of the world. They'll laugh you out of town. What are you talking about? You see what this Quran said and what you're telling me? It's so silly. All right, so let's give you another one. Chapter 43, verse 43-44. Let's just pile up on you now. Pile up on you now. So, brother, they don't even beat a dead horse. I said, yeah, well, this horse, I'm beating him into smithereens. I don't care if he's dead. You see, he kicked up on my car, knocked the dent in it, and so now I'm beating him down, and they just keep beating him into nothing. So look at it, 40. So hold fast to that which is revealed to thee from your Lord. Uhiya. Uhiya is the word revealed here. That word is used in chapter 6, verse 19. Uhiya is in chapter 6, verse 19. But Allah has called a witness that this Quran has been uhiya to me. That word is used in chapter 7, 6, verse 107. Follow what is uhiya to you from your Lord. Follow it. Follow what is uhiya to you from your Lord. There's no God but He, and turn away from the mushriks. Turn away from the mushriks who believe that A'udhu billahi min shaitan regime is something that you have to say, and they got it from the second source. Turn away from that. Turn away from people who saying that you have to keep asking Ihdina Sirata Mustaqim. That's mushrik and unbelief. Turn away from that. So hold fast to that which Allah has revealed to you. Surely thou art on the Sirata Mustaqim. And surely it is a reminder for what? It's a reminder for you and your people, and you will be questioned. Simple as that. So now, if that's not good enough for you, let's look at the chapter 6, verse 84-88. Let's just go ahead and bury you with this here, because you ran off at the mouth and you shouldn't have been talking too much. So let's go ahead and just crush you now. This overkill. This is really overkill. I shouldn't be coming that hard, but I'm just doing overkill now because you got out of pocket with me. Not that I care, my skin and all that, but I have people who listen to me. And they say, well, Brother Hamza don't know what the hell he's talking about. Look what this brother said. And if I don't come and clean it up, he'd be like, don't pay that brother no mind. He don't know Arabic. He ain't went nowhere. He ain't got nothing. You understand? He don't know what he's talking about. Don't listen to him. Listen to these guys here. These guys are quoting Arabic and they so on. Listen to them. Don't listen to Hamza. Well, Hamza's giving you an argument. He's producing what he said. He's been out there in the trail. He's debated people in public. You ain't debated nobody. You ain't debated nobody, especially nobody of notoriety, somebody with some credentials, and over again. You ain't did that. And if you did, it's no problem. The little attempts you made a fool of yourself. Look, chapter 18, chapter 6, verse 84-88. Let's look at it. 84. Now, we started at 83. And this is our argument which we gave to Abraham against his people. And we exalt in degrees whom we please. Surely that Lord is wise knowing. And we gave him Isaac and Jacob. And each one did we guide. What? Each one we guided. We guided them. We guided them. They're dead and gone. They've been guided already. And Noah did we guide before. We guided Noah. He didn't have to keep asking every day for guidance. We guided Allah, said we guided them. And of his descendants, David, Solomon, and Job, and Jacob, and Moses, and Aaron. And thus do we reward the doers of good. And Zechariah, and John, and Jesus, and Elias. Each one of them was of the righteous. And Ishmael, and Elijah, and Jonah, and Lot. Each one of them we made to excel the people. And some of their fathers, you know what that means. Jesus had a father, it's in that verse right there, and then ain't nobody can argue against that. We got that verse already clear. Some of their fathers, if Jesus ain't had no father's name, got no business in there, and their descendants. Their descendants. That's another case. And you know, we already made that case. You don't want to call me out on that. You're with your Christian, you can team up with the Christians on that one because that's the camp that you're into with that virgin birth business. And some of their fathers and their descendants and their brethren. And we chose them and what? Guided them to the Salat Mustaqim. We chose them and what? Guided them to the Salat Mustaqim. So now listen what it said. This is Allah's guidance wherewith he guides whom he pleases of his servants, of his slaves. That's what it's going to be, slaves. And if they had associated any others, if they has associated others with Allah, all that they did would have been in vain. Them, more or less you, imagine you and me. If those noble 18 prophets or more and their descendants and so forth, had they associated anything with Allah, all that they did, all, you know what all means, would have been in vain, would have been nothing. So imagine you associating stuff. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. You didn't get that from the Quran. Ihdina Sirata Mustaqim, over and over. You ain't get that from the Quran. Anybody told you that. So now you're in that vain stuff. You're in that business. Although that's lightweight stuff. It's lightweight stuff, perhaps. But you're associating. These are they whom Allah gave the book and the authority and the prophecy. Therefore, if they disbelieve in it, what? We have indeed entrusted to people who are not disbelievers in it. These are they whom Allah what? Guided. So what? Follow their guidance. Follow. Don't ask for guidance. Follow their guidance. Follow their guidance. Their guidance is monotheism. Follow it. Say, I ask you no reward for it. It is a naught but a reminder to the nations. Simple as that. So that's the end of that ball game for you there and that verse again. Now let's talk about us. We talk about the 18 prophets and all that. Let's keep going. I'm not letting you up right now. I'm not letting you up. No, not letting you out so easy. That'd be letting you out too easy. Chapter 6, verse 71. Chapter 6, verse 71. Let's talk about us, the G-pop. General population. Chapter 6, verse 71. Let's see how it goes. There it is. Say, shall we call besides Allah on that which profits us not, nor harms us? And shall we be turned back on our heels? What? After Allah has guided us? After Allah has guided us, past tense, after Allah has guided us, not that we're looking for guidance. Should we turn back after Allah has guided us, like one whom the devil causes to follow his low desires? You following Shaitan because he has autonomy and he has the will to not be a slave. He wants to be a servant. So you want to be with him in his camp, in bewilderment, in the earth. He has companions. This person has companions. What? Who call him to the right way, who calls him to Al-Huda. We're calling you to the Al-Huda so that you will be guided. What is the Al-Huda? Quran, chapter 2, verse 185. So that you will be guided. Come to us. Say, surely Allah's guidance, that is the guidance. And we are commanded to submit to the Lord of the worlds. What are you talking about asking for guidance over and over again? You have to follow the guidance. You don't have to ask for no guidance. You distrust the Lord gave you the guidance already? You don't trust that? You think that's wrong? What are you talking about? Let's talk about creation. Chapter 20, verse 50. We talked about Muhammad. We talked about the 18 prophets or something. We talked about us. Let's talk about creation. Shaitan is the one who rejecting the guidance. Shaitan is the one who has autonomy. Shaitan is the one who don't want to be a slave. Shaitan is the one who Allah is not guiding. He's not going to ever guide Shaitan. Chapter 20, verse 50. When 49, when Pharaoh asked Moses, he said, "Who is your Lord, O Moses?" Moses said, "Our Lord is he who what? Gives everything its creation." He gives everything its creation. That means everything is created, complete and exact and right. And now what? Then he guides. Then he guides. He guides automatically. You don't have to tell Allah what to do. You want to say, "Oh, Allah, guide me." What are you talking about? You don't tell me what to do. Allah guides whom He wills. He guides whom He wills. And who wills to be guided? The guidance is there. He gives everything His creation, then He guides. Simple as that. He's guiding. That's what He's guiding right now. You don't have to ask Him. You need to follow the guidance, not be asking for guidance. That's why you're probably misguided now, because you're not following the guidance. Chapter 64, verse 11. Chapter 64, verse 11. I'm going to get up off you in a few minutes. Just going to make sure that you're down for the count. You don't try to get up and sneak me. Make sure you're down for the count. Your argument, I want it to be DOA, not you. I have nothing against you. Your argument, I want it to arrive dead on arrival. 64:11 says what? No calamity befalls a man but by Allah's permission. And whoever believes in Allah, He guides his heart. Whoever believes in Allah, He guides his heart, and Allah knows of all things. If you trust Allah, He guides your heart. He guides your qulub, your qulub. You don't have to ask Him for nothing. He knows what it is. He's closer to you than your life. He knows what you need even before you ask for it. He says He's giving you all that you asked of Him. If you can count, you couldn't count what He's given you. If the ocean was inked and the trees and all that, and two oceans like and all that, you couldn't add up the favors. What are you talking about? Now, you said about guidance, asking for guidance. Let's see what Allah says about increasing in guidance. Chapter 19, verse 76. Chapter 19, verse 76. And Allah increases in guidance those who go aright. If you go aright, meaning you follow. You follow the guidance that He gave you, follow it, He increases you in guidance. And deeds that endure, the good deeds, are with thy Lord, better in recompense and yield better return. So Allah, if you follow the guidance, He will increase you in guidance. You ain't got to keep asking for guidance. You don't ask for guidance. He increases you in the guidance that you got. Increase, increase, increase. That means that for me, it means that whatever the Sahaba that was with the Prophet knew, we can know better because Allah guided them and He increases in guidance. And the Quran guides to Aqwam. There's no limit to the guidance over and over again. So the Sahaba and all them, they didn't know anything about man flying in airplanes and using the internet and one thing after the other, and certain things that you know now that you didn't know in medicine and biology and zoology and astronomy and one thing after the other, physics and all that. He increases you in guidance. Not that they earn their reward in paradise. Those are with the messenger and the prophet. But we can earn also, and we can earn higher and higher and higher. All we have to do is follow the guidance, not ask for guidance. What are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. Let's see another one, 1813. You see, you put your foot in your mouth and you got too smart. You shouldn't have did that. With me anyway, you see? Now you see what gets unleashed on you. You can come back again and try something else, and it'll just be the same punishment over and over again. Because when I say something, you better check it because I'm speaking from the Quran. I'm not speaking my opinion, personal point of view. I think about it over and over and over again before I open my mouth in public. When I open my mouth in public, I'm accountable, and I ain't gonna try to be doing nothing, saying nothing that I don't know. I can keep it to myself. I'm not trying to get nobody's favor for nothing by being some smart person or nothing. I tell people don't even ask me questions. Don't ask me nothing except something I said. We relate to the story with truth. Surely they were youth, talking about the youth that was in the cave and who believed in their Lord. So we increased them in guidance. Hudan. We increase them in Hudan. Hudan will come to you. Whoever follows my guidance, no problem. We increase them in guidance. You see, they had guidance. We increased them. They didn't have to ask for nothing. They followed that. They followed that. 47:17. Let's see if follow is correct now. I keep talking about follow. So, well, why did brother keep talking about follow and follow and follow? Well, let's take a look right here. Chapter 47, verse 17. I got you going and coming. You don't escape. You don't escape this trap. When you get caught out there, you get beat down. Now you're getting beat down with overkill. You're not ready for this. Just stay in your lane and do what you're doing. You're doing good work and all that. Don't mention me. Don't talk about me. I don't know where you got that from. Of course you don't. So you need to slow down and ask or go somewhere and learn. Don't make statements about being arrogant. Brother, to stop being pride and arrogant. Pride and arrogance. You don't know me. What are you talking about? And if I'm pride and arrogance, that's me. That's what I do. I do pride and arrogance. I ain't perfect. I'm not no angel. But I try to speak the truth about what I'm talking about when I talk about my Lord. That's what you need to focus on. Don't get caught up in me and my personality. I can switch on you all day long. You won't even know what way to deal with. You don't even know what to deal with here. 47 what? 17. What does it say? And those who follow guidance, what? Follow guidance. He increased them in guidance and grants them observance of their duty. He grants them taqwa. He grants them those who what? Follow guidance, not ask for guidance. Follow guidance. Now, just to shore that up again, let's take a look at 28:57. And I got some other stuff, but I think I'll slow down after this verse here, and I'll open it up for question and answer. I got more stuff I can keep beating you. I think you had enough. I'm starting to feel sorry for you a little bit right now. I'm feeling sorry, but you asked for it, and so that's what you got. You asked for that. I had to give you that. Next week, inshallah, if I don't get any stuff that I have to come back with, I'll have some brand new stuff to share with you folks. It's going to be very good information also, but I hope I don't have to come back and do some cleanup on aisle 3. They say, if we want follow guidance with thee, if we follow guidance with thee, with you, messenger, if we follow the guidance Al-Huda with you, we should be carried out from our country. They're going to deport us. Have we not settled them? Allah says, have we not settled them in a safe place, a sacred territory with fruits of every kind and are drawn, a sustenance from us? But most of them know not. So they're saying, look, you come in here with this Al-Huda that you follow, and you want us to follow it with you. You want us to follow it with you. If we do that, people ain't gonna like us. We turning away from our ancestral worship, our traditional stuff, and second source material. They're not gonna like us for that. So there it is. Follow. Brother, you have to follow the guidance, not ask for guidance. Stop talking silly and listen to these verses unless you got verses that you want to overthrow these with. Now I'll just end with that now, and I'll open the line up for questions on anything that I said today or that I've said in the past that you can quote me on saying it and bring it up, and I'll address that or anything today. The line is open for questions. The line is open for questions. Anybody. You can chide me if you like also. Well, brother, I think you was too hard and too harsh and all that. And I'll just give you some blowback on that and tell you go mind your business and do what you got to do. This is not for you. This is not for you. If you can't listen to the argument, something that might get you into paradise, and you get caught up in me, well then, yeah, this is not for you. Don't blame me for that. Don't put that on me. Because I'm a multifaceted person. I can do a lot of different stuff. So don't get caught up in that. But when I speak to you about this Quran and my Lord, I don't play with that. I don't play with that not 1 second. You can snatch my heart out any minute. And then plus I'm trying to get to paradise. I ain't trying to do that. But I do have a personality. I do have an attitude. I'm me, and that's who I am. That's who I am. Don't get caught up in that though. You see? Listen to the argument and see if you can deal with the argument. If you need time, you go look at it, check these verses and all that, and see what I'm saying is right. I'm saying you don't ask nobody for no guidance no more. The word Ihdina is not used in the Quran from Baqarah to Nas. The word Ihdina is not used there nowhere. Everybody's been guided already. It's about follow the guidance, taba'ah, being in sync with it. And Allah said, don't even pursue running after something that you don't even know, trying to get some guidance. Don't do that. And don't ask questions about things that if somebody give you the answer, it's going to give you a problem. Keep your mouth shut about that. It's very easy. These are very easy get out of hell tickets. Very easy. But it's too hard for you because why? You don't have no discipline. You want to open your mouth and run off at the mouth too much. You see? Now they jumped on my brother X and beat him down. I'll see somebody jump on me to beat me down. Jump on me. And I think Brother X handled himself very good, even though there's some couple of things I disagree with him about, and I'm sure he disagrees with me about. And Brother Shuaib, he's my brother. He disagrees with me. I disagree with him, but he handles himself very good. I'm at the argument, not the person. But this brother here now, you came at me with some arrogant stuff and all that kind of mess. And I'm saying you're coming at me because I'm the Fatiha man. I'm the man who talk about the Fatiha, not part of the surah and all that. I'm ready to debate some scholar from Ashar, not you. Not you. You don't know nothing about this. You ain't studied this. I don't know where you got it from. Well, then keep your mouth shut then until you know or you don't know. Don't open your mouth and don't be talking about arrogant and all that. Not that I care, like I said again, but I'm a man from the street. And if you push my button, you get burned. I'll burn you. I still got some burning power. So any questions? Anybody got any questions?
There is a question on the chat. I posted. This was posted when we were talking about Allahu Akbar Kabir.
Yeah, let's see. This person, can you make it bigger? Somebody's put a post up, something in the chat. 17111. Takbir. Takbir. It said takbir, meaning declare Allah's greatness and that Allah is greater. Allah is greater than their associates. Allah is greater than anything they attribute to him or associate partners with him. That's a statement somebody's making. That's wrong. Allah, that's a comparative term. Allah doesn't use anything about Allah who comparative. Allah, He is something different. What Allah possesses is greater and bigger and one thing. Allah, who He is not no comparative with that. That's wrong. So I don't know what that is. Please don't bother me with that silly stuff like that. Yeah, let that ride. That's some silly season. You should be on the line talking to me in person, not writing something in chat. If you're listening to this, you can get on. You got the call letters and all that, so I can spank you live. I can spank you live. I can't spank you in absentia. Yeah, so get that mess out of here. Allah, He, when Allah says Allah, He, that is, he compares himself with something else. His hatred of you was greater than your hatred of yourself. Allah, He. That's in chapter 40, verse 11, somewhere over there. But Allah, who, that's His person. That's when when He magnifies Himself, He takes it to the max. Al-Kabir, chapter 40, verse 12. He uses the term wahdahu. Wahdahu. Don't bring stuff that you don't. I see people make comments and all that. They don't know what they're talking about. I said, the hell with it. Sometimes I'll deal with it, and sometimes I won't. And it's just so silly. It's a silly season. You got nothing to say. You ain't. I go to your page and look at what you got. You got nothing over there. I said, somebody want to friend me. I said, let me see who this person is asking for friendship. And you got nothing over there on your page. Nothing but some foolishness. I was saying, this brother's person is in the time for fool. Sometimes I'll accept the friendship, maybe you want to learn something. And sometimes I'll say, I got no time for this nonsense. Period. Not me. I don't have the time for it. There's plenty of people out here that's got time for that. I don't. Anybody else have a question? Is there any question from anybody else? If not, then I'm going to fold it up and hit the road jack. Anybody? Anybody? Well, I guess that's it. So until next time, hopefully I'll bring a new argument to the front. It's going to be exciting. I got some new stuff already done. I'm stacking it up, and so I don't have to put too much pressure on myself. And there's some people who are on this chat right now. They know that I got this stuff, and they know it's going to be explosive. It's going to be explosive. I'm going to have argument and proof behind the argument that you understand that a lot of stuff that you thought you had right is going to be wrong. So we'll see what it is. Last call. Anybody else has any question they want to ask about anything I presented today? Okay, then I'll sit back. I'll wait for the blowback to come at me. The avalanche should probably come after me in some comments and some other places and all kind of crazy stuff. But I hope don't nobody get up their chi and want to call me out, because if you do, it's going to be debate format. I'm not coming to be discussing nothing. I'm coming for debate on the topic that I'm talking about. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. I thank all you people who have joined with us today. I thank you, and I hope Allah rewards you and reward you for your sincerities. A lot of you I know, and I know that you're there, and I know how sincere you are. I communicate with many of you off and other venues, and I know that you're sincere, and I hope Allah reward you, give you the best of this life and the next life. And anybody who hears this video and looks at it seriously and considers it seriously, whether you agree or disagree, just be sincere about your approach. That's all. And Allah will reward you for your sincerity. You don't have to agree. But if you're sincere and you just don't see it and you just don't get it and you're sincere, well, then just leave it. Don't come after me with some hogwash stuff that you don't know and you just figure to pull the rabbit out of your hat. Don't do that. Don't do that. And plus, I don't have time to run all that stuff down like that. And so I'll just leave it. But you mislead other people. You could cause confusion for other people if you don't know what you're talking about and you got no argument and you never did nothing but just internet trolling. Okay, so I'm out.